Chapter 894. Inside the box was none other than Yin Wuchao's head. It was unknown what this head was soaked in, but it did not rot after so long. Its eyes were wide open as if it was looking at Li Fan, as if it wanted to say something to him. "Fuck your uncle." Li Fan immediately flipped out. "Who the fuck is playing with the young master? Don't hide, come out with the young master." As Li Fan spoke, he took 2 steps back. Then, he raised a mouthful of true qi in his body and suddenly roared. Ha! Fierce tiger roar. As if a gust of wind blew, the dust in the house was swept up and in the blink of an eye, it was blown away by Li Fan, disappearing without a trace. The surrounding windows were blown open, allowing the sunlight to enter the house, brightening it up. A woman's figure, unknowingly sitting on the armchair in front of him. She was wearing a white dress with long black hair and a pair of bare feet. She had the demeanor of an immortal, elegant. This woman had red lips and white teeth, a great beauty. She had a pair of peach blossom eyes that curved into crescent moons when she smiled. This woman's beauty could definitely make men go crazy. Li Fan wanted to go crazy. Imperial concubine Zhou. Are you so bored that your balls hurt? Vulgar. Imperial concubine Zhou sat there with an elegant posture. Her voice was as pleasant as an oriole's. I haven't seen you for a long time, how come you've become so vulgar? Young master's temper is like this. Imperial concubine Zhou, you have a lot of money, right? Can't you just give it to me? What kind of tricks are you playing? This imperial concubine indeed has a lot of money. I only spent a small amount of money to make you obediently come to this imperial concubine. Isn't it very interesting? When imperial concubine Zhou left, she took away a lot of gold and silver. To her, 1 million was indeed a small amount of money. Sure enough, you're a prodigal woman. If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Li Fan already understood that Yin Wuchao was definitely killed by imperial concubine Zhou. You're leaving? This imperial concubine spent money, aren't you going to chat with this imperial concubine? Talk about what? Li Fan snorted coldly, what's there to talk about between us? Don't you want to know the whereabouts of that thieving girl? Yin Xiaoru? Li Fan tensed up. What did you do to her? As expected, there is still someone you care about. Imperial concubine Zhou giggled again and again. Ben Gong has already said that you look strong, but you actually have weaknesses all over your body. Any random person can consign you to eternal damnation. Imperial concubine Zhou, you're really annoying. Although the person in front of him was a beautiful woman, Li Fan couldn't help but curse. You look pretty, but you have a heart of a snake and scorpion. That Yin Xiaoru has no enmity with you, so why did you capture her? If you have the ability, come at the young master. No matter what you do, I, the young master, will take it. Li Fan immediately raised his true qi, and his whole body was not angry, but his aura was imposing. What's the hurry? Let's chat first, then talk about women. Imperial concubine Zhou sat there, crossed her beautiful little feet, and swung it back and forth. Ben Gong is very bored. The people of this era are not interesting at all. There is no one pleasing to the eye. Ben Gong looked around, and you are the only one pleasing to the eye. You're sick. Li Fan glared at imperial concubine Zhou, feeling that this woman's illness was not light. An old monster who had lived for hundreds of years, her heart had already begun to distort. Ben Gong is not sick, it's you people who can't see clearly. Imperial concubine Zhou proudly said, Ben Gong's strength is enough to represent everything. If you want to convince me, then use your strength to conquer me. Where is Yin Xiaoru? Li Fan felt that it was impossible to reason with imperial concubine Zhou, so he directly asked about Yin Xiaoru's whereabouts. A little girl is actually worthy of your attention. What, is this Ben Gong's charm inferior to a little girl? Imperial concubine Zhou crooked her finger at Li Fan. What, did you use this trick on him? Li Fan kicked the box in front of him, causing Yin Wuchao's head to sway a bit. How could this be? This kind of trash I don't fancy. So you killed him? You're wrongly accusing me. Didn't you kill this person? Fart. Li Fan angrily rebuked, young master indeed killed people, but he never killed this old man. You see, you still don't admit to what you did. Imperial concubine Zhou smiled. When you killed this man, you looked quite handsome. Nonsense, it's useless for you to lie to me about something I didn't do. Bengong never lie, because Bengong has no reason to lie. Imperial concubine Zhou stretched her waist. I haven't exercised much recently, my muscles and bones are getting lazy. Imperial concubine Zhou, what are you trying to do? Li Fan scolded. You brought me here and deceived me into killing people. What is your purpose? Are you trying to frame me? After changing your appearance, you're really a bit annoying. Imperial concubine Zhou faintly sighed. When you're in bed, you don't talk to Bengong like this. What did you say? Li Fan was shocked. He took a step back and looked at Imperial concubine Zhou in shock. I went to bed with you? Are you joking? This Imperial concubine Zhou's words were getting more and more unreliable. You don't remember? Imperial concubine Zhou slightly knitted her eyebrows. It was at that time. Imperial concubine Zhou said a date, but Li Fan sneered. During that time, I was in closed-door training. When did I ever have a private meeting with you? You really don't want to admit it? Imperial concubine Zhou's expression turned cold. She slowly stood up, as if she was floating in the air, her black hair fluttered. Bengong's body has always been as pure as ice and as clean as jade. Even that dog emperor never touched me. At that time, I gave it to you, but you turned your back on me. Good, Li Fan. Today, Bengong will let you remember. Li Fan felt a little angry and wronged. He really didn't have anything to do with Imperial concubine Zhou. However, when he was in closed-door training, he was harassed by his heart's demon. At that time, Mr. Yang appeared in front of him with Imperial concubine Zhou in his arms. For Li Fan, it was just like watching an AV, so he didn't take it to heart. But connecting it with the series of things that happened now, Li Fan was a little scared. Could it be? What Imperial concubine Zhou said was true. Without waiting for Li Fan to understand, Imperial concubine Zhou had already arrived in front of him. She raised her palm and pressed it against Li Fan's forehead. Imperial concubine Zhou didn't show any mercy, as if she wanted to kill Li Fan with one palm. However, Li Fan wasn't a person who would sit still and wait for death. He immediately stepped into a horse stance and directly used the Ursa Major seal to collide with Imperial concubine Zhou's palm. Bang! The two palms collided, and a wave spread out, sending the surrounding tables and chairs flying. Layers of cracks also appeared on the wall. It was obviously caused by the internal strength of the two people. I haven't seen you for a long time. Your internal strength has improved a lot. Imperial concubine Zhou couldn't help but praise, worthy of being a man that Bengong has slept with. Chapter 895. What the fuck? Li Fan was very depressed. Even if he was really fucked, he would still be in an unconscious state. Motherfucker. What's wrong with me recently? I'm actually being controlled by my heart's demon. My heart's demon is too much. He just casually fucked a girl. It's fine if he fucked someone else, but he actually fucked the most difficult Imperial concubine Zhou. Her virginity was originally reserved for her marriage. Deep down, Li Fan was a very traditional person. The first time was very important to him. But in the end, it was inexplicably taken away by Imperial concubine Zhou. He was very unhappy, very unhappy, very unhappy. The windows in the room were blown open, and a gentle breeze blew through. Their palms touched each other. Imperial concubine Zhou didn't move, but Li Fan took a step back. His foot left a footprint on the ground and stabilized his footsteps. Li Fan, don't pretend. Whether you admit it or not, the two of us are the most suitable people. Imperial concubine Zhou suddenly appeared in front of Li Fan. Her arm gently rested on his shoulder. You can be this concubine's male pet. In the future, if this concubine accepts other male pets, let them listen to your management. Li Fan pushed Imperial concubine Zhou back with a palm. At the same time, he glared at her and sneered, You, this woman, do you still want to be an empress? Why not? Imperial concubine Zhou put her hands behind her back and gently tilted her head. She looked at Li Fan. In the past, Wu Zetian was also an empress. The country was prosperous and the people were at peace. This concubine has an immortal body. Wouldn't it be better than her? What a joke. This is no longer an imperial society. The power belongs to the people. Is that really the case? In short, it's much better than the past. Li Fan felt that his words were a bit false. Moreover, being my male pet, you can also enjoy an immortal body. Imperial concubine Zhou looked at Li Fan and extended her small white hand. I can use my true qi to reconstruct your body, making you immortal. I don't want to become a monster like you. Li Fan refused Imperial consort Zhou's kindness. This consort will ask you one last time. Do you agree? Imperial concubine Zhou seemed to have lost her patience. Her eyes became sharp as she coldly looked at Li Fan. If I don't agree, are you going to bite me? Then what's the point of keeping you around? Imperial concubine Zhou was a temperamental person. She would suddenly turn hostile. She immediately flew forward like a white butterfly and instantly appeared in front of Li Fan. Imperial concubine Zhou's move seemed simple. It was just an ordinary palm. However, her kung fu had already been simplified from complexity to simplicity. A simple palm strike was better than thousands of kung fu. Li Fan unleashed his true qi domain. He used his true qi to pull his body and suddenly retreated 3 meters away, making Imperial concubine Zhou's palm to hit empty air. Pa! The air seemed to explode, emitting a deafening roar. Imperial concubine Zhou frowned and looked at Li Fan. What kung fu is this? When she spoke, her eyes gathered true qi. Unexpectedly, she also unleashed true eye. Oh, a domain formed from true qi? Interesting. Imperial concubine Zhou's eyes lit up. Is that so? Imperial concubine Zhou's surroundings unexpectedly appeared with her true qi domain. She could turn the virtual into the real. In terms of true qi, she completely surpassed Li Fan. Li Fan had carefully thought of a way to use true qi, but Imperial concubine Zhou just casually learned it and used it. Fuck, I despise people like you the most. Li Fan cursed in all kinds of ways. Imperial concubine Zhou used her true qi to move her body and instantly arrived in front of Li Fan. My dear, this consort will leave your head and accompany me on my bed day and night. Imperial concubine Zhou said. Her left hand grabbed a sword that was condensed from true qi and stabbed it toward Li Fan's throat. Li Fan suddenly stretched out his left hand. Wrapped in true qi, he directly grabbed the sword. Ding! Golden sparks flew out, but the sword was still caught. How long can you block this consort? Imperial concubine Zhou smiled. Isn't it better to obediently die? Imperial concubine Zhou, do you think that I can't beat you? Li Fan asked. Obviously. Imperial concubine Zhou nodded her head. Then, she stretched out 2 fingers of her other hand and suddenly pointed at the acupuncture point under Li Fan's ear. A sharp pain instantly hit Li Fan's nerves. He almost screamed, but he forcibly endured it. Li Fan bit his lips. His lips were directly bitten and blood flowed down. Amazing. This kind of pain is like 10,000 ants biting your heart. You can actually endure it. Imperial concubine Zhou praised. But how long can you persist? Imperial concubine Zhou. Have you heard of different body united heart? Li Fan suddenly smiled. His smile was dripping with blood, causing Imperial concubine Zhou to frown. What do you mean? Do you think that you can still resist me? Imperial concubine Zhou's strength had already been completely restored. Although Li Fan was also very powerful, he couldn't be compared to Imperial concubine Zhou. The true qi in her body couldn't even be a match. Under the encirclement of Imperial concubine Zhou's true qi, it collapsed and disintegrated. You will soon. No. While speaking, Imperial concubine Zhou suddenly felt a sharp pain on the back of her neck. She reached out her hand and patted it, but only saw her own blood on her hand. Immediately afterward, a sharp pain came from her brain, and then completely exploded inside her body. Imperial concubine Zhou directly kneeled on the ground in pain and released Li Fan's acupuncture point. At the same time, the sharp pain disappeared. Imperial concubine Zhou raised her head. Her eyes flashed with an ominous glint. She poked Li Fan's acupuncture point again. Li Fan endured the sharp pain, but Imperial concubine Zhou fell to the ground again. Her body slightly twitched. Li Fan smiled. Just now. What entered this consort's body? Imperial concubine Zhou angrily asked. White centipede. Li Fan introduced. Imperial concubine Zhou is experienced and knowledgeable. You must know what the 7 emotions and 6 desires harmony goo is, right? You actually found a pure Yin body. And even refined this harmony goo. Imperial concubine Zhou finally understood. Her face was full of despair. Take this goo out for this consort. I won't take it. If you don't take it, this consort will kill you. Kill me. This way you will also die. Even if it turns void into reality, it won't be able to save you. Li Fan winked at Imperial concubine Zhou. Imperial concubine Zhou clenched her teeth. Her eyes glowed red as she fiercely glared at Li Fan. Io, what's wrong? Are you angry? Li Fan squatted down and looked at Imperial concubine Zhou, who was kneeling in front of him. Weren't you very fierce just now? Come, quickly conquer me. Let me be your male pet. Imperial concubine Zhou didn't speak, but Li Fan stretched out his hand and poked himself. The pain of 10,000 ants biting his heart, he also knew how to use his true qi. This kind of pain, Li Fan could still endure. But if he threw it to Imperial concubine Zhou, Imperial concubine Zhou couldn't bear it. Chapter 896. Intense pain assaulted her. Imperial concubine Zhou was an internal force expert. She could still endure ordinary pain. But the pain she was experiencing now was several times worse than the intense pain. Even if Imperial concubine Zhou wanted to endure, her nerves could not endure it. This pain reached the depths of her soul. Imperial concubine Zhou kneeled on the ground, screaming nonstop. Her true qi automatically flew out, shattering the surrounding walls, causing the entire Golden Eagle Castle to tremble. If this continued, the entire Golden Eagle Castle would probably be destroyed. Li Fan loosened his hand, allowing Imperial concubine Zhou to recover, but her body was still slightly twitching. Pure Yang physique was a woman's nemesis. And the 7 emotions and 6 desires harmony goo was simply a woman's fatal weapon. Li Fan threw out this harmony goo, and every time he threw it, it was always accurate. Harmony goo had its pros and cons. It could be said to be a super weapon that could be used in a crucial moment. Using one on Imperial concubine Zhou, Li Fan had no choice. If he did not use it on her, he might really die here. Are you convinced? Li Fan looked at Imperial concubine Zhou under his feet, suddenly feeling a sense of conquest. It was so smooth. Although he wasted a harmony goo, it was worth it. You cheated. Imperial concubine Zhou's face was filled with unwillingness. If you want to kill me, do I have to stretch out my neck for you to chop? Li Fan rolled his eyes. He suddenly thought of Jiang Feng's evaluation of him. To achieve one's goal, schemes and overt schemes could be used. Sigh, just treat these words as a compliment. Li Fan comforted himself. Li Fan, this consort will definitely kill you. Come. Li Fan directly laid on the ground and spread out. I'll just lie here, you can kill me however you want. Follow your mood, I guarantee you will be satisfied. Li Fan's shameless appearance made Imperial concubine Zhou choke with anger. You bastard. Imperial concubine Zhou wanted to vomit blood. Even though she had peerless martial arts, she could not do anything to Li Fan. Why was she born in this era? Could it be that she was born so that Li Fan could bully her? Imperial concubine Zhou looked at Li Fan, who was lying on the ground. She raised her palm and condensed a powerful true qi in her palm. Not to mention a human, even if it was an elephant, he would be able to kill it with one slap. However, Imperial concubine Zhou couldn't do it. If he killed Li Fan, he wouldn't be able to keep his own life. But if he didn't kill him, he would always be under his control. This empress is someone who is going to become the empress. How can I be buried with this guy? But how could I allow him to restrict me? The true energy in Imperial Concubine Zhou's hand condensed, then dispersed, condensed again, and finally dispersed again. Li Fan lay there with his eyes open, as if he was asleep, allowing Imperial Concubine Zhou to do whatever she wanted to him. Damn it! Imperial Concubine Zhou was so angry that she gnashed her teeth. In the end, she could only obediently put down her hand. What exactly do you want? Tell me, where is Yin Xiaoru? Li Fan finally opened his eyes. He looked at Imperial Concubine Zhou and said word by word. That girl is very smart. I don't know where she ran off to. Imperial Concubine Zhou snorted. That girl is like an earthworm. I can't even catch her. As long as she didn't fall into your devil's claws, it's fine. Li Fan let out a sigh of relief. Although the underworld was big, Yin Xiaoru was also an old driver. She would take good care of herself. But if he really killed her father, this matter. It would be hard to say. It was impossible for Yin Xiaoru to not blame him. Yin Wuchao. Was I really the one who killed him? This empress never lies. Imperial Concubine Zhou said, you personally killed him in front of this empress. At that time, you were like another person, overbearing and full of charm. At that moment, Imperial Concubine Zhou unexpectedly had a little fangirl feeling. If what you said is true, then there's only one possibility. Li Fan sat cross-legged. His complexion was somewhat gloomy. At that time, it wasn't me, but another person. You're too shameless. You actually let others take the blame for what you did. Imperial Concubine Zhou should have learned a lot of new words recently. She grasped these words very well. What I mean is, it's not me, but my heart's devil. Li Fan was basically tied to Imperial Concubine Zhou. He was not afraid that she would harm him. Thus, without any scruples, he directly said, recently, my heart's devil is getting heavier and heavier. Sometimes, I don't even know what I'm doing. When I wake up, I find that I'm doing things that I don't want to do. Practicing martial arts is easy to breed heart's devil. Imperial Concubine Zhou stretched out her hand and put it on Li Fan's wrist. Your pulse is strong, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. This is indeed a sign of heart's devil entering your body. Why would practicing martial arts produce heart's devil? There was a martial arts master in front of him. Li Fan couldn't help but ask, is it because the power produced by practicing martial arts is too strong and the state of mind can't keep up? This is God's punishment. Imperial Concubine Zhou had her own opinion. In this world, everything must abide by God's law. For example, us humans, although we are smart, our body's ability is limited. We must rely on some tools to survive. But look at lions, tigers, and other fierce beasts. Although their bodies are strong, their minds are very stupid. Be more specific. To be specific, we humans are destined to be restrained by our bodies. If we are smart and have a strong body, wouldn't we be no different from God? Imperial Concubine Zhou's theory seemed to have some truth. Therefore, in order to balance us, God naturally wants us to be restrained. Once our strength breaks through a certain range, then our brain will not be able to bear it. Thus, we will go crazy and become a beast-like existence. Imperial Concubine Zhou's words made Li Fan think for a long time. This woman seemed to have some truth in her words. Unexpectedly, Li Fan was unable to defend himself. It seemed that the reason why she was able to become the strongest in the world was also reasonable. Therefore, if you want to become a true powerhouse, you must defeat yourself, and you must also defeat God. Imperial Concubine Zhou said word by word, be proficient in controlling your own body. If your heart's devil comes, don't try to suppress it. If I don't suppress my heart's devil, wouldn't I be possessed by the devil? It's more open than blocked. Imperial Concubine Zhou reminded Li Fan, this is the experience of Yu the Great when he conquered the flood. If you always suppress your heart's devil, won't its power become stronger and stronger? One day, it will erupt and you won't be able to control it. Li Fan thought for a moment. His heart's devil did seem to be getting stronger and stronger. properly guide it and liberate your nature. On the contrary, the heart's devil will slowly become calm. Imperial concubine Zhou said, "When Ben Gong first entered the palace, I was the same as you. I suppressed my heart's devil day and night, but it almost devoured my heart and caused me to be possessed by the devil and die. Later, Ben Gong let the heart's devil do its thing. From time to time, I liberated my nature and finally got rid of this predicament." Chapter 897. At the age of 13, Imperial concubine Zhou entered the palace. "I don't like it here." At that time, Imperial concubine Zhou was only a maid beside her sister. Her sister was the empress, the mother of the world. Everyone had to bow to her, except for two people. One was the current emperor, Chongzhen, and the other was her sister, Zhou Wanshu. At that time, Zhou Wanshu took her sister's hand and refused to enter the palace. But no one in the family agreed to Zhou Wanshu's request. In this way, Zhou Wanshu was sent to the palace and became a maid beside her sister. Zhou Wanshu was often sick when she was young, so her family arranged for her to practice martial arts in Shaolin to strengthen her body. Originally, it was impossible for the Shaolin temple to accept women, but at that time, Zhou Wanshu pretended to be a boy and was sent there. Zhou Wanshu was talented, had the talent to turn nothing into reality, and also had the ability to bloom four flowers. However, until the age of 13, Zhou Wanshu's female characteristics became more and more obvious. At this age, she already had the strength to reach the peak, shocking the martial arts world. Zhou Wanshu's identity was discovered by her master and she was driven out of Shaolin. Only then did she enter the palace with her sister. As an expert, she should serve the royal family. This was the idea of the martial arts world at that time. When Imperial concubine Zhou entered the palace, even her master supported her. "If you follow this poor monk, you won't have any development. It's better to enter the palace." At that time, her master said this to her. "The great Ming dynasty needs you." After Imperial concubine Zhou entered the palace, she inadvertently flipped through a secret book in the palace. At the age of 15, Imperial concubine Zhou had already reached the peak of martial arts. At this time, the great Ming dynasty had entered the end. Countless foreign experts came to the palace to assassinate Chongzhen, but none of them could pass through Imperial concubine Zhou. At that time, Imperial concubine Zhou was almost the pride of the entire martial arts world until she swept the entire martial arts world. Is it really bad to be possessed by the devil? Imperial concubine Zhou stood there, looked into the distance, and said softly, "Sometimes, not thinking is actually a good thing. You can sigh." Li Fan gloomily looked at Imperial concubine Zhou, who was sitting in the carriage. She was wearing a long white dress, and one of her hands was gently supporting her chin. The afterglow of the sun was sprinkling on her body, making her look holy and pure. Everything was an illusion. Li Fan quickly retracted his gaze. This girl, Imperial concubine Zhou, was poisonous. It was better to see less of her. "You can be emotional, but why are you following me?" Because Imperial concubine Zhou was following them, Li Fan had no choice but to rent a carriage. "This consort is already yours. If I don't follow you, who else will I follow? It's all the inner demon's fault. It has nothing to do with me." Li Fan said, "I'll send you to the exit of the Luoma Ancient Road. After that, you don't have to follow me." "Humph, Li Fan, don't go too far. Is this empress someone you can bully? Then you can get off now. I can't be bothered to lower myself to your level." Imperial concubine Zhou leaned on the shaft of the carriage and didn't say a word. Li Fan continued to quietly drive the carriage. There were too many people in the pugilistic world on the Luoma Ancient Road. In order to not attract attention, he deliberately used alien bone change to secretly change the shape of his face. "Why would you change your appearance? With this empress here, who would dare to hurt you?" Imperial concubine Zhou asked. "The human heart is sinister. It's hard to say anything." Li Fan was no longer a fledgling rookie. He could now be considered an experienced driver. The pugilistic world is indeed sinister. That's why absolute power is needed. This woman, sometimes, your thinking is too extreme. Speaking of which, isn't the 1 million you spent a bit not worth it? Li Fan ridiculed Imperial concubine Zhou. Not at all. It's just a little bit of money. It's good enough to see you. When Imperial concubine Zhou said this, she was like a little girl. What's so good about me that I'm worthy of Imperial concubine Zhou's attention? Li Fan was very confused. You don't know, when you're possessed by your inner demon, the charm you emit. Imperial concubine Zhou seemed to be a little nostalgic. AI, it would be good if your inner demon completely broke out. Fuck, young master doesn't want to be possessed by the devil. Li Fan was also convinced by this Imperial concubine Zhou. However, in this pugilistic world, she was probably the only one who could do whatever she wanted and act according to her mood. The world is a demon, but it's just wearing a hypocritical coat. Imperial concubine Zhou sneered a few times. If you and I are demons, what can we do? On the contrary, we will live happily. Are you a family with Mr. Yang? Mr. Yang, who is that? Imperial concubine Zhou gently turned her head and asked Li Fan. Nothing. Li Fan turned his head and didn't say anything. The two people drove the carriage all the way along the Luoma ancient road, heading in the direction of the exit. Imperial concubine Zhou sat quietly on the shaft of the carriage. She stretched out her hand and seemed to be very bored. She was braiding her hair. Soon, she tied a cute braid, but it seemed that she was not satisfied. She untied it and began to braid it again. Women are so boring. Li Fan withdrew his gaze and continued to concentrate on driving the carriage. At this time, Imperial concubine Zhou suddenly raised her head, looked at Li Fan and said, "There is someone in front." And Li Fan looked into the distance and didn't see anyone. In front of them was a barren grassland. Because it was early spring, some tender green grass had just drilled out of the ground, releasing vitality. But after Li Fan drove for 100 meters, he suddenly heard the sound of weapons colliding. What a good Imperial concubine Zhou! Li Fan couldn't help but be shocked. She was so far away, but she actually noticed it? Imperial concubine Zhou's strength was indeed strong. Perhaps in today's pugilistic world, there were only a few people who could compete with her. He didn't know what happened in front of him, but the grass and trees on both sides were not suitable for the carriage. Li Fan could only continue to follow the ancient road and continue to go down. The sound of metal became louder and louder. Soon, in front of some dilapidated villages, several carriages appeared. 6 escorts stood there, waving the weapons in their hands and fighting with several black-clothed men. It was unknown which sect these black-clothed men were from. Each of them wore a mask and held a padao in their hands. Their moves were ruthless, and almost all of the 6 escorts were injured. Let's go. Imperial concubine Zhou didn't care about the life and death of these people. She gestured to Li Fan to continue on the road. The matters of the world's escort agencies are my matters. Li Fan was a gold-ranked escort, so it was reasonable for him to take care of them. If you want to take care of them, they should appreciate it. Imperial concubine Zhou knew a little about Li Fan's matters. No one in the world's escort agencies liked Li Fan. If he wasn't a gold-ranked escort, no other escort agency would pay attention to him. That's their business. I only do my own thing, Li Fan said and jumped off the carriage. Chapter 898. Hichichi had just celebrated her 19th birthday. Her birthday had been uneventful, although the people of the escort agency had said that they would hold a banquet to invite the heroes of the world. However, Hichichi had not agreed because she knew that, firstly, the agency did not have enough money to hold a banquet. Secondly, the heroes of the world would not attend a banquet held by a small agency like theirs. The agency was her father's business, and he had passed it on to her when he passed away. Thus, to Hichichi, the agency was not only a responsibility, but also a legacy. Even though the people of the agency had hoped to follow the trend and turn the agency into a security company, at least they could earn some money from the secular world, Hichichi had flatly refused. The tradition of the agency could not be changed. They only carried goods and good goods. Because of this, the people of the agency had either left or dispersed. Now, in the entire agency, besides herself, There were only 5 escorts left. They were all seniors who had followed her father's generation and were not young, all in their 50s. For a martial artist, at this age, it was time to go home and enjoy the rest of his life. However, the agency was lacking manpower, so they could only invite a few uncles out of the mountains. However, they were indeed old, and a few assassins could not hold them off for long. Chi-Chi's martial arts were not very good. She held a leather shield in one hand and a sharp knife in the other, hastily blocking an attack from a man in black. "Put down the goods and get out of here. Otherwise, none of you will live." The man in black roared as he attacked. The goods, the people." Chi recalled the words her father had whispered into her ear. Although her hands were trembling, she still gripped her sharp knife tightly and reprimanded him in a tender voice. "You're asking for death." The man in black gripped his knife with both hands and increased the pace of his attacks. Chi seemed to be on the verge of defeat. Escort. Swallow steps, tiger subduing saber. An old escort with a head full of white hair shouted at the top of his lungs as he tangled with the man in black. "Hi!" Chi used her shoddy martial arts. When she heard the old escort's warning, she tried to retreat and then slashed at the man in black. But when she took a step back, she suddenly tripped and fell to the ground. Chi-Chi's world suddenly slowed down. It was as if she could see the mocking smile in the black-clothed man's eyes as he raised his hand to stab at her. At this moment, Chi-Chi's falling body suddenly stopped, and she fell into a firm embrace. In Chi-Chi's line of sight, she saw a man hugging her. Then he lifted his leg and kicked the man in black's padao. The padao was kicked away and stuck in the door of the dilapidated house. "Who are you? You actually dare to interfere in the matters of the Only Me sect?" Zhang Xian thought that the other party's name would scare the other party off, but who would have thought that the other party would actually reveal his name? "So it's someone from the devil cult. It's just the right time to stretch my muscles." The man smiled instead. He put Chi down, took her shield and saber, and slowly walked forward. Courting death. This black-clothed man was also extremely vicious. He took a padao from his companion and pounced towards the man. Instead of retreating, the man advanced. He lifted the leather shield in his left hand and knocked away the padao of the black-clothed man. Then, the knife in his right hand pierced through the throat of the black-clothed man. The man swung his knife, and the black-clothed man's corpse was flung to the side. 10 steps to kill a person. This scene stunned everyone present. The other black-clothed men also stopped fighting and took a few steps back as they re-examined the man in front of them. Chi also looked at him and was a little stunned. "Who is this man?" The man used his knife to draw a long line on the ground and said with a beaming smile, "Anyone who crosses this line shall die. I give 10 points to this pretentious act." Imperial concubine Zhou was bored to death as she sat on the carriage at the side and quietly watched Li Fan act pretentious. Li Fan raised his shield and stood behind the line. He didn't say much and didn't make any movements. The other black-clothed men looked left and right. "He's alone. Don't be afraid. Let's attack together." A black-clothed man with a padao pointed at Li Fan. "This thing is very important to Hall leader. If we lose it, we won't be able to live. Attack! Kill him." When the remaining black-clothed men heard this, they seemed to remember Hall leader's methods. One by one, they couldn't help but shiver. Then, with a spurt of energy, they pounced towards Li Fan. A total of 8 black-clothed men. After Li Fan killed one of them, the remaining 7 arrived in front of Li Fan in the blink of an eye. A black-clothed man had already arrived above Li Fan's head. He raised the padao in his hand and with an indomitable momentum, he chopped down towards Li Fan's head. Li Fan smiled. He raised his leather shield and pushed it above his head, immediately knocking away the padao of that black-clothed man. At the same time, his body leaned to the side and the sharp knife in his right hand chopped down. With a puff sound, the black-clothed man's head was chopped off. This head flew to the feet of a black-clothed man. He didn't have time to look at it. Holding the padao with both hands, he moved close to his body and chopped down towards Li Fan's feet. Li Fan raised his left foot and directly stepped on the man's padao. At the same time, his right foot kicked up and kicked the black-clothed man's head, sending him flying high. The sharp knife in Li Fan's right hand followed up and pierced through his chin, piercing through his skull. Li Fan's knife carried the corpse and blocked the padao from the other two black-clothed men. The padao pierced through their companion's corpse. Li Fan pulled out his sharp knife and pierced the chest of the black-clothed man on the right, piercing his heart. At the same time, he swung his leather shield and knocked over the black-clothed man on the left. Then he stepped forward and stabbed him with his knife. With a puff sound, the black-clothed man's heart was pierced. Li Fan half-squatted on the ground while the three black-clothed men behind him jumped together. The padao in their hands shined with a bright light as they went straight for Li Fan. Li Fan quickly turned around and roared at the three people who were rushing towards him. Ha! A wave of air rushed out and sent the three black-clothed men flying. The three of them crashed into the house behind them. Two of them crashed into the wall. One of them directly smashed through the door and fell into the backyard. Li Fan swung the sharp knife in his right hand and nailed the head of a black-clothed man to the wall. At the same time, he turned his body and swung the shield in his left hand. This small leather shield was infused with true qi. When it rotated, it was even sharper than a knife. In a flash, the head of another black-clothed man was cut off and embedded into the wall. Li Fan jumped forward and jumped into the house. Taking advantage of the moment when the black-clothed man was about to get up, Li Fan stretched out his hands and grabbed the black-clothed man's head and forcefully twisted it. Crack! The black-clothed man's throat was directly twisted. His head twisted 180 degrees as he strangely looked behind him. Li Fan clapped his hands and walked out of the house. At the same time, he also took down his shield and knife from the wall. The last black-clothed man was so scared that he almost peed his pants and sat on the ground. Chapter 899. The man in black was shivering. Li Fan had already walked in front of him, and the sharp knife was pressed against his forehead. Li Fan tore off the mask he used and asked, "I have never seen you in the evil cult. Who are you?" Nonsense. The man in black suddenly roared and began to shout a long string of slogans. Through the ages, only I will not perish. The veins on the man's face suddenly bulged and his eyes turned blood red. Li Fan felt a wave of pressure. He raised his leg and fiercely kicked the man's body. The man was like a ball that was sent flying by Li Fan's kick. He turned into a cannonball and crashed into the dilapidated house behind him. Bang! The house collapsed in an instant. Flesh and blood splattered all over the ground. So dangerous, Hichichi saw this scene and was so scared that her face turned pale. She touched her chest for a long time before she calmed down. Sky Demon Disintegration is indeed the evil cult's martial arts. Li Fan confirmed the other party's information. Recently, there were always some people in the pugilistic world who liked to use the name of the evil cult to commit crimes. Li Fan hated the evil cult, but he did not want them to be the scapegoat and cover for these criminals. "Thank you for saving my life." Hichichi was signaled by an older escort. She then came forward and cupped her hands towards Li Fan. "You are welcome. All the escorts in the world are one family. It was just a small effort on my part." Li Fan waved his hand, indicating that he did not do anything. "You are also an escort?" Hichichi was a little happy. "May I know which escort agency are you from?" "Just a small escort agency. It's not worth mentioning." Li Fan casually mentioned the name of an escort agency. He had never heard of it before. 4C's Escort Agency, Escort Li San. Watergate Escort Agency, Chief Escort Hichichi. Hichichi's beautiful eyes were filled with admiration. "If not for Big Brother Li, we would be dead," Li Fan asked as he returned the blade to Hichichi. "I saw that when escort he held the saber just now, his technique was very inexperienced, and it vaguely looked like he was painting. I'm afraid that escort he has just started practicing martial arts, right?" "Indeed, it won't take long." Hichichi took her shield blade, her face slightly red. "Although I've been practicing martial arts for a long time, I've never trained properly since I was young. I'm a student at the Academy of Fine Arts, and I'm just a freshman this year. It was a hasty decision for me to take over the agency." Before she could finish, The old man beside her coughed and interrupted Chi. Well, escort chief, we can talk about the escort agency later. Talking about it now will only add to young hero Lee's worries. Oh, look at me, you're still talking endlessly. Chi lightly knocked on her head. Young hero Lee, I will definitely repay your kindness in the future. It's all right. You don't have to be so polite. Just continue with your escort business. It was also time for Li Fan to hit the road. He did not want to delay for too long. He wanted to go back early to revise for the college entrance examination. Chi was already a university student, but he was still a high school student who had to worry about university. May I know where young hero Li is going? Chi subconsciously asked. At east. Prepare to exit the ancient road. What a coincidence. We're also heading east. Chi was a little happy. She clapped her hands and invited, why don't we go together? What do you think, big brother Lee? Chi seemed to be very familiar with him. She was already calling him Big Brother Lee. That? Chief Escort, that's not a good idea, right? The old man could not help but interrupt. Young hero Lee is too troublesome. It's all right. Meeting is fate. It's good to send you on your way. Li Fan nodded in agreement. Thank you so much. Chi was very happy. With the help of such a powerful escort like Li San, the road ahead would be very smooth. Then let's go. Li Fan got on his carriage and followed behind them. Chi seemed to be a little interested in Li San. She rode beside Li Fan's carriage. Seeing the enviously beautiful imperial concubine Zhou, she could not help but ask. This is... Imperial concubine Zhou immediately raised her small chin. It was time to introduce herself. Oh, this is my second aunt. Li Fan casually said. Imperial concubine Zhou almost vomited blood. Damn second aunt. You really know how to joke. Chi covered her mouth and chuckled. This is so young. How could she be your second aunt? That's right. Imperial concubine Zhou said in her heart. This little girl has good taste. My second aunt has a technique to maintain her youth. Do you want to learn? Li Fan looked at Chi with a smile. He felt that this little girl was quite cute. It's really your second aunt? So young? You have to stand firm. Imperial concubine Zhou had been proud her whole life. She did not know why, but at this moment she wanted to cry. Chief Escort calling me Chief Escort sounds so bad. Just call me Chi. She was really full of modern people's habits. Li Fan could not help but mutter in his heart. Chi, you don't look like a martial artist. How did you become an escort? Li Fan thought for a long time. Finally, he could not help but ask. I took over my father's business. Chi sighed softly. Originally, I was still a freshman in the Academy of Fine Arts. Later, my father passed away. No one was in charge of the escort, so I had to take over. Are you not used to it? A little. There are a lot of rules, especially Uncle Wang. When I don't do well, he will scold me, humph? Chi secretly stuck out her tongue at Li Fan. Don't tell him. In this Jianghu, there are indeed a lot of rules. But if you are strong, you don't have to follow the rules of this world. Li Fan spoke the truth. This was also what Imperial concubine Zhou told him. But I am very weak. When my father taught me martial arts, I didn't learn it well. Now, I find that I can't beat anyone. Chi's face was full of regret. How about brotherly, you come to our escort agency. I will give you a high salary. How about 5,000 a month? Li Fan was so angry that he almost laughed, but Imperial concubine Zhou looked at him with a gloating expression. How about it, brotherly? This is the highest price our escort agency can offer. Even Uncle Wang doesn't have as much as you. Chi looked at him with a sincere expression. It did not seem like she was joking. How can I casually betray my own escort agency? Li Fan found an excuse to refuse Chi, making her somewhat disappointed. That Uncle Wang, who was walking in front, was coughing up blood. But at this time, his young master had completely ignored him. She kept pestering Li Fan with questions. Brother Li, what is your martial arts? Where did you learn it? Like you, it's the shield saber technique. Brother Li, what are you doing outside? Escorting an escort. Then why don't I see your escort flag? Secret escort. Brother Li, do you have a wife? Li Fan looked at this girl helplessly. Chapter 900. This little girl was simply asking 100,000 whys. Li Fan's forehead was full of cold sweat. He didn't know how to answer. Why are you asking about my wife? I see that Brother Li's second aunt is so beautiful, so I'm curious what kind of woman can enter your eyes. He Chi-Chi couldn't help but be curious. I'm not married yet. Why? Second aunt won't allow it. Imperial concubine Zhou fiercely glared at Li Fan. Escort leader, someone is inspecting the post in front. Uncle Wang, who was walking in front, suddenly slowed down his pace and said, Inspecting the post? He Chi-Chi was a little surprised. She clumsily clamped the horse's belly with her leg, making the docile black horse walk a little faster and walk side by side with Uncle Wang. Oh no. They rarely inspect the post. Today is an exception. Inspecting the post was a common occurrence on the Luo Ma ancient road. Sometimes, in order to arrest criminals, the imperial court's genie guards would set up sentries on the ancient road to arrest these wanted criminals. Li Fan was relaxed. He had already changed his appearance, so the other party couldn't find him. However, this time, the genie guards were here to arrest someone. Li Fan glanced at the front and saw at least 20 genie guards. One of them looked like a Qianhu, with an iron fist on his right hand and a group of subordinates behind him. This is the first time I've seen such a formation. Li Fan muttered. A group of trash. Imperial concubine Zhou was quite disdainful. The entire genie guards doesn't have any good people. Didn't you say that you learned your secret martial arts from an inner court eunuch? Li Fan immediately asked, Whose man is he? The East faction guards. Imperial concubine Zhou slowly said, In the past, Wei Zhongxian had a real expert under his command. This old eunuch was foolishly loyal and wholeheartedly assisted Wei Zhongxian. In the entire inner court, no one was his opponent, so this consort personally took action and killed him. He didn't die in vain as he contributed a secret martial art to this consort. Imperial concubine Zhou raised her right hand, and a whirlpool-like power appeared on it. That old eunuch learned a martial art that could absorb other people's true qi. He was already over 70 years old, but he still had white hair and a youthful face. This empress was very curious at that time. Only after learning this technique did I understand that humans can also live forever. What's the point of being immortal? Li Fan asked. Isn't there still no one around you? A lonely life is indeed boring. Imperial concubine Zhou smiled sweetly. Fortunately, I met such an interesting person like you. I really didn't mean anything. You chose the wrong person, Imperial concubine Zhou. Li Fan hurriedly refused. My judgment has never been wrong. If not for Imperial concubine Zhou's godlike strength, Li Fan would have thought that this woman was a Chunibyu. However, the other party's strength was there for all to see. You had no choice but to believe him. The one in front looks very fierce. Li Fan took a look. The embroidered uniform guards were very strict. They had even started to question He Chi-Chi's parents. Fortunately, there was no problem with He Chi-Chi's identity, so she answered smoothly. The embroidered uniform guards interrogated for a long time, but they didn't get any information. In the end, they decided to let her go. But at this time, the eyes of the embroidered uniform guards suddenly fell on Imperial concubine Zhou. It was impossible for such a beautiful woman to not attract attention. Who is she? The embroidered uniform guard asked. He Chi-Chi was about to speak, but at this time, Uncle Wang was one step ahead. He cupped his hands and said, Sir, this is my granddaughter. This time she came to watch the fun. Your granddaughter looks good. The embroidered uniform guard's eyes couldn't move away from Imperial concubine Zhou. He Chi-Chi felt strange. Why did Uncle Wang say that she was his granddaughter? Wasn't she Brother Li's second aunt? Imperial concubine Zhou frowned. She glared at the embroidered uniform guard and scolded, If you look again, I'll dig out your eyes. Yo, your granddaughter is quite fierce. The embroidered uniform guard burst into laughter. Jianghu is dangerous. You have to teach her more. Don't let her court death by herself. Yes. Sir is right. When we return, this old man will ruthlessly lecture her so that she won't dare to offend Sir in the future. All right. You guys can go. The embroidered uniform guards didn't find the person they were looking for. They didn't put this small escort agency in their eyes and waved their hand to let them pass. The group left the checkpoint. Seeing that the embroidered uniform guards were no longer in sight, they let out a sigh of relief. Uncle Wang, just now you, once they were far away, Chi couldn't help but secretly ask Uncle Wang. Escort leader, your experience in Jianghu is shallow, so there are some things that you can't see through. Uncle Wang transmitted his voice to his escort leader. This Li San is so strong and has such a beautiful woman with him. It's impossible for him to be an escort from a small escort agency. It's very likely that he's hiding his identity. Previously, he helped us and was willing to give us a ride. So, this time, we'll do him a favor and help him pass smoothly. Brotherly isn't brotherly? Then who is brotherly? Chi muttered. Uncle Wang was a little nervous. My eldest miss, you mustn't ask. Uncle Wang, I'm not a fool. Chi angrily rolled her eyes at Uncle Wang. This Uncle Wang really thinks too highly of me. When Chi was in school, no matter what, I was a top student. In short, Jianghu is deep. Escort leader, you must be more careful. I know. Uncle Wang is really long-winded sometimes. As Chi spoke, she continued to act as if nothing had happened. She slowed down her horse and rode side by side with Li Fan. Chi, what's the matter? I want to ask this, sister. Chi looked at the young and beautiful imperial concubine Zhou. She couldn't call her second aunt. How can I retain my youthful looks? No woman wouldn't care about their appearance. Although Chi was quite pretty, she was still young and old. She also wanted to retain her youthful looks. It would be good if she could stay young and beautiful forever. Young lady, beauty comes with a price. Imperial concubine Zhou wasn't as kind as Li Fan. Her first words scared Chi. For the sake of beauty, you have to do anything. You're not even afraid of seeing blood. Do you have this awareness? Sister? Could it be that you've always had plastic surgery to maintain your youthful beauty? Imperial concubine Zhou's face darkened. Li Fan almost died from laughter. This Chi was really interesting. She actually made Imperial concubine Zhou choke. Her method doesn't suit you. Li Fan was afraid that Imperial concubine Zhou would harm Chi, so he finally said, Chi, as long as you diligently practice martial arts, your internal strength will reach the peak. You can at least maintain your youthful appearance when you're in your 30s. It would be good if people don't grow old, Chi sighed with emotion. Li Fan looked at Imperial concubine Zhou. Not growing old is not necessarily a good thing. Chapter 901. Chi didn't speak with Li Fan for too long, because they hadn't gone far when another wave of embroidered uniform guards blocked their way. Li Fan frowned slightly. Why was the genie guard so free recently? There were a total of 9 people. 8 of them were dressed in the attire of Baihu, and 1 of them was dressed in the attire of Qianhu, which looked a bit like the attire of a blackguard. She was a woman, wearing a one-eyed mask and dressed like Yushi. She walked directly in front of them. You can leave. Put down the bodyguard. The woman's voice was as cold as the river in February, bone-chilling. Officers, we are an escort agency. How can we leave the goods behind? Uncle Wang was in a very difficult position. He kept trying to put in a good word for the embroidered uniform guards. Cut the crap. The woman cursed. There's something wrong with your darts. Put them down and leave. That's impossible. We're just a small escort agency. We don't do undercover work. We checked before we came here, and there was nothing wrong with it. Sir, do you think you've arrested the wrong person? Get lost. The woman lifted her leg and kicked Uncle Wang to the ground. Do you have the right to tell the genie guard what to do? Uncle Wang rubbed his aching abdomen, not daring to make a sound. However, Hichichi was not happy. The little lass jumped down from her horse and rolled up her sleeves. She was about to rush forward and argue with them when she was pulled back by another escort. Escort leader, don't be rash. Don't stop me. This group of people is too lawless. Haha, that's right, little girl. You're right. The woman laughed. We, the embroidered uniform guard, are the law. We, the embroidered uniform guard, are the heavens. In Jianghu, whoever dares to go against us, the embroidered uniform guard, is seeking death. Men collect their gifts. Let's see who dares. Although they did not dare to offend the brocade guards at Hichichi's tender rebuke, the 5 escorts silently stood by the side of the carriage and pulled out their shields and knives. As long as the escort was alive, so would the people. This was a principle that every escort agency had to abide by. Even if they were just a small, unknown escort agency, they still had to keep this in mind. Protecting the dart was the soul of an escort. A few old, weak, and disabled people dare to try and stop a chariot. The woman waved her hand. Come on, take them down. The brocade guards pulled out their swords and all the escorts looked as if they were facing a great enemy. Hichichi raised her voice and shouted at Li Fan, Brother Li, please leave. This is our own business. Li Fan sighed. If she didn't say so, he would have left shamelessly. But now that these words had been thrown out, if he were to leave, wouldn't it seem unjust? Besides, he had already poked his nose into other people's business a long time ago. Since he was going to deliver the Buddha to the West, he might as well deliver the Buddha to the West. Officers, why are you in such a hurry? Why don't we have a cup of tea first and have a good chat? As Li Fan spoke, he took a pot of water from the car and threw some tea leaves into it. Then he held the kettle. Soon, white steam floated out of the cup and a fragrant aroma came out of the kettle. This simple move caused the embroidered uniform guards to look at each other at a loss. This was no ordinary kung fu. A simple move was enough to show how powerful this man's inner strength was. Who are you? How dare you meddle in the affairs of the embroidered uniform guards? The one-eyed woman's face was dark as she looked at Li Fan, who had an extraordinary inner strength. Brother Li, don't worry about it. Let's go. Hichichi shouted at Li Fan, these embroidered uniform guards are very fierce. You've helped me once, so I can't drag you down with me. Li Fan looked at the one-eyed woman, then at Hichichi. Chichi, your martial arts aren't good. Why do you want to protect the dart? Can't you just give it to them? Brother Li, you're also an escort. How can you say such things? Hichichi was a little angry. Although I, Hichichi, am weak in martial arts, since I've joined this profession, I must have the soul of this profession. As she spoke, she raised her shield and sword and shouted, Today, the dart lives and the dart dies. Well said. Uncle Wang's tears streamed down his face. Old He, your daughter has grown up. Don't worry. Even if I die, this old man will protect the dart head. As he spoke, the 5 old men roared in unison. Their voices were loud and resounded through the sky. Li Fan jumped up from the carriage and walked towards them with a teapot. All right, I'll help you because of what you said. Who do you think you are? The one-eyed woman sneered. Meddling in my embroidered uniform guard's business. How dare you? Everyone, why don't you tell us first? What is this dart that the embroidered uniform guard is so concerned about? Li Fan was not in a hurry to act. Instead, he asked first. Stinking brat, how dare you ask about my embroidered uniform guard's business? The one-eyed woman did not answer Li Fan. Instead, she pulled out a black saber from her waist and pointed it at Li Fan's nose. Meeting my heartless saber is your bad luck today. Oh! Li Fan smiled. You're the heartless saber? I'm the real deal. The one-eyed woman no longer had the patience to waste time with Li Fan. She waved her saber and the 8 embroidered uniform guard Baihu behind her all rushed towards Li Fan. It won't be good if I spill this tea. Looking at the 8 Baihu rushing towards him, Li Fan's expression was indifferent. He casually threw the teapot over his head. The 8 Baihu had already rushed in front of Li Fan. Li Fan gathered his chi and slowly raised his hands. Li Fan's body seemed to have turned into a phantom as he stabbed out with the crane technique. The 8x whose figures seemed to be slowed down in front of him. Li Fan's hands continuously stabbed at the 8x whose acupoints. In just an instant, Li Fan stabbed at least 100 times. The 8x whose bodies flew out and fell to the ground. Bang, bang, bang. In the next second, their bodies exploded and turned into a pile of flesh and blood. Li Fan continuously stabbed their acupoints, causing their blood vessels to flow in reverse. In the end, they died from blood loss. The teapot fell and was caught by Li Fan single-handedly. The tea was still warm. Thank you. Li Fan seemed to have done something trivial, but the one-eyed woman was so scared that she almost peed her pants. What was going on? Who was this person? The heartless saber and I have some history. Why did you have to impersonate her? As Li Fan said this, he was already standing behind the one-eyed woman. The one-eyed woman felt her scalp go numb. This person was standing at least 10 meters away from her. How did he get behind her in the blink of an eye? The one-eyed woman turned her head and saw Li Fan standing behind her. He was sitting in her carriage and had a small teacup in his hand. He was pouring tea for her. Tell me, who are you people? Why do you want the escort? Go ask Hades. Chapter 902. The one-eyed woman who was pretending to be Heartless Saber did not seem to fear death. Although she was afraid, she bit her tongue. Under the stimulation of blood and pain, she held the black saber and pounced at Li Fan. Puff! Li Fan's right hand directly clasped the one-eyed woman's neck, choking her. Tell me, who are you working for? For thousands of years, I am the only one. The one-eyed woman shouted. Then her eyes turned red, and her body began to overflow with true qi. Li Fan did not dare to hesitate. He directly pushed the one-eyed woman away. The woman flew halfway and exploded into a bloody mess in the air. The true qi surged in all directions, crushing the surrounding trees and turning them into dust. The sky demon disintegration was truly a terrifying move. Looks like she really is from the devil cult. Li Fan frowned, deep in thought. What exactly were Chi and the others transporting? Why were the people of the devil cult so interested and kept coming over to steal the darts? They were talking about the Hall Master earlier. Who was the Hall Master on their side? One mystery after another appeared in front of Li Fan, leaving him scratching his head. The escorts from the Watergate were dumbfounded. The strength that this brother Li San had just displayed was not just for show. This kind of strength was not something an ordinary escort should have. This man must be famous in the Jianghu. But who was he? If he was famous, his face should be familiar. But his face was very ordinary. He had never seen it before. Uncle Wang muttered in his heart. Could it be the legendary disguise technique? It was really unbelievable. While Uncle Wang was thinking about Li Fan's identity, Chi had already walked over and bowed to Li Fan. Brother Li, it's really been hard on you today. You saved me twice in a row. Chi's face was full of shame. She was such a failure as an escort leader. It was not easy for her to deliver goods, but she was robbed twice in a row. I feel that my escort agency will not be able to operate for much longer. Chi looked depressed. If this goes on, I'm afraid the agency will close down. Running an escort agency is naturally difficult. Li Fan comforted Chi. As long as you persevere, you will be able to do it one day. But, can I really do it? Chi looked at her hands. Just half a month ago, my hands were still holding a paintbrush. I originally wanted to study in France, study the painting techniques there, and finally become a real soul painter. But who would have thought that fate would make a fool of me? Chi smiled bitterly. The girl who was full of confidence just a moment ago was now showing signs of exhaustion. Don't worry. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Li Fan thought of his own phenomenal escort agency. When he first started it, there were also layers of difficulties. However, up until now, it had already reached a certain scale, and it had even become a gold medal escort. If only I had practiced martial arts in the past, Chi blamed herself a little. The escort agency wouldn't be what it is today. Keep it up. No matter what, you still have the soul of an escort in you. Li Fan couldn't help but praise Chi when he recalled how she protected the darts. At that time, I was hot-headed. Chi blushed a little. How about this? Li Fan looked at Chi, who seemed to be in a difficult position, and suggested an idea for her. Miss He, why don't you come to my place and be an escort first? You can learn some experience and skills. When you've learned enough, you can return to your Watergate escort agency and be your escort leader. What do you think? Li Fan was also on a whim. He felt that this girl named Chi was not bad, so he couldn't help but want to help her. My good nephew, you're really warm-hearted. Imperial concubine Zhou rolled her eyes and took advantage of him. The meaning of her contempt was self-evident. We're all children of the pugilistic world. This is something that we should do. It's nothing. Li Fan laughed and said shamelessly. Guaranteed to teach? Chi tilted her head and asked. Guaranteed to teach, but no refund of travel expenses. Li Fan recited this advertising slogan skillfully. Chi really thought about it. Uncle Wang, what do you think? If the escort leader wants to learn, that's also good. Uncle Wang nodded, but it can only last for 3 months. I can help you run the escort agency for these 3 months. But after 3 months, you must personally take charge of the overall situation. Sure. Chi nodded. I think Brother Li's escort agency should be reliable. After the escort, I'll go home with you. It's to return to the escort agency. Li Fan emphasized it a little, which made Chi blush. This brotherly, what was he thinking? I meant to return to the escort agency, Chi blushed, and her voice lowered by an octave. Okay, then it's settled. Li Fan reminded her, let me say this in advance. My escort agency isn't very big, but it can manage. With an expert like Brother Li, the escort agency can't go wrong. Chi trusted Li Fan. Not only was she saved by him twice, but his martial arts were also so good. But, are you not going to university? Li Fan couldn't help but ask. I'm taking a break from school. Chi was helpless. Under such circumstances, I can only take a break from school. Practicing martial arts is important, but it shouldn't interfere with your studies. I don't want to either, but I have to make a choice. Chi looked like a weak girl, but she had her own determination. But this escort agency has been run by several generations of my family. I can't let it be destroyed in my hands. With that, her gaze fell on Li Fan. Brother Li, where's your escort agency? City A. Chapter 903. The person was entrusted to Li Fan, but the escort still had to be delivered as promised. Li Fan held the idea of helping the Buddha to the west, and decided to help them escort the escort to the place. The place that these people wanted to escort was the exit of the Luo Ma ancient road. There was a small villa there, and it was said that a family with the surname Bai lived there. What exactly are you delivering? On the road, Li Fan couldn't help but ask. The escorts looked at Li Fan, but didn't answer. The principle of the escorts was not to reveal the identity of their escort to outsiders. Chi also hesitated for a moment, but she didn't say it. I'm sorry, Big Brother Li, before this escort set off, the guest had warned me to absolutely not let outsiders know. So, even if you ask me, I can't say. It's okay, I was rude. Li Fan waved his hand, sat in the carriage, and no longer asked about the escort. However, he used his true chi to wrap around the box, trying to use his true chi to see what was inside. Li Fan's true chi was always successful, but this time, he encountered some special circumstances. His true chi seemed to be sucked in, and it was frantically pulled into the box. Li Fan couldn't control his true chi, and felt that the box was like a devil's den, as if it wanted to pull Li Fan's soul away. Li Fan wanted to leave, but he couldn't resist. At that moment, it was as if there were countless hands grabbing his body, trying to pull him into the abyss. A woman was sitting in front of the dressing table, wearing a red cheongsam, and seemed to be from a famous family. She was looking at the mirror, dressing up as if waiting for her sweetheart. Li Fan especially wanted to see the face of that woman. He slowly approached her, and there seemed to be only the sound of a heartbeat, and a somewhat low breathing sound in his ears. With the instinct of a martial artist, Li Fan felt that something was wrong. His hair stood on end, and all the hair on his body trembled. He wanted to leave, but his line of sight involuntarily approached the woman. "It's a bronze mirror." Imperial concubine Zhou suddenly reached out her hand and grabbed Li Fan's wrist. Li Fan felt himself being forcefully pulled back to the real world. He looked at Imperial concubine Zhou, who looked like a fairy, as if it was a lifetime ago. "What? Are you unable to extricate yourself from my beauty?" The corner of Imperial concubine Zhou's mouth raised into a beautiful arc. Beautiful, very beautiful indeed. At this moment, Li Fan was deeply moved. If it weren't for Imperial concubine Zhou, he didn't know what would have happened. The two of them sat in the carriage and kept using the secret sound transmission so that no one could hear their conversation. "How did you know it was the copper mirror?" Li Fan wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and looked at the proud Imperial concubine Zhou. "I checked it with my true qi long ago." Imperial concubine Zhou casually said, "It's an octagonal bronze mirror with a beast head." "Then why are you fine?" That copper mirror had some kind of special energy, but Imperial concubine Zhou acted as if nothing had happened. "You and I are naturally different. In this world, which woman can compare to me?" "Fuck." Li Fan curled his lips. This woman was too Chunibyu. In short, don't try to use your true qi to approach this box. Imperial concubine Zhou reminded Li Fan, "Next time, even I may not be able to save you." "Got it." Li Fan was a bit depressed. He had great power, but he couldn't do anything to a small mirror. That mirror should have some kind of technique sealed on it. Imperial concubine Zhou continued to transmit her secret sound transmission to Li Fan. "Technique? A kind of ghost god technique." Imperial concubine Zhou said, "Since the Qin dynasty, there has been a kind of people in this world who are proficient in the ghost god technique. They are called necromancers." "Ghost god technique? They can fly in the sky, burrow into the earth, and live forever? How is that possible?" Imperial concubine Zhou rolled her eyes. "It's quite beautiful. It's just some yin and yang technique, nothing to be surprised about." Imperial concubine Zhou seemed to be accustomed to it. When Chongzhen was still alive, there was also a necromancer in the palace who specialized in refining pills for Chongzhen. These pills have the effect of prolonging one's life, but unfortunately, they couldn't stop Chongzhen's fate from running out. With that, Imperial concubine Zhou giggled, as if she had just told a joke. "Although that Chongzhen has some skill, he is a man without fate. Do you hate him?" "I don't hate him. It's just that in this world, there are only two men who can enter my eyes." Imperial concubine Zhou gently leaned her head on the shaft of the carriage. She seemed to be tired. Her red lips were tender and alluring, making Li Fan have the urge to kiss them. "This woman is poisonous." Li Fan swallowed his saliva and tried to suppress his impatient heart. Although he might have tasted these red lips at some point, and even went straight to the stamen and plucked the heart. But that was when he was possessed by the heart demon. He had no impression of it at all. "Shouldn't I do it when I'm awake?" "Ah, Li Fan, how can you have such dirty thoughts?" Let's continue talking about the necromancers. According to Imperial concubine Zhou, these necromancers should be proficient in alchemy, ghost hunting, and geomancy. Since ancient times, there was no lack of such people in China. But whether it was true or not, Li Fan was not clear. "What does this bronze mirror have to do with necromancers?" "You are a martial artist. You should understand that the true qi that we martial artists practice is a kind of energy." Imperial concubine Zhou was too lazy to use the secret voice-ending technique, so she simply whispered in Li Fan's ear, making Li Fan's ear itch. Even after a person dies, there should be a kind of energy. And necromancers know how to communicate with this kind of energy. That bronze mirror seems to seal someone's energy. This kind of thing that can't be reincarnated can only be done by necromancers. As Imperial concubine Zhou spoke, she gently stretched her waist, overflowing with charm. "However, after I came back to life, it seems that there are no necromancers here. It seems that this profession of necromancers has completely come to an end. After all, revealing the secrets of heaven will incur the wrath of heaven. You were born in defiance of heaven, won't you also incur the wrath of heaven? Li Fan very seriously looked at Imperial Concubine Zhou. Sure, let the wrath of heaven be fiercer. I'm not afraid. Imperial Concubine Zhou smiled, her smile brimming with confidence. In this world, there is no match for me. Perhaps the heavens will be able to fight against me. The world is big, there are all kinds of strange things. Li Fan reminded Imperial Concubine Zhou, in addition to martial arts, there are also many kinds of powerful experts. Perhaps. Wait until they come. I will sleep for a while, you take care of your sister. Imperial Concubine Zhou leaned on the carriage, closed her eyes, and began to take a nap. Li Fan looked at her, shook his head, and continued to concentrate on driving the carriage. We are almost there. Uncle Wang, who was walking in the front, saw a house in the distance and shouted. Chapter 904. By Residence. Like the Golden Eagle Castle, this place was almost deserted. The front door was covered in snow, and it was hard to tell that anyone had been here. Is this a deserted residence? Hichichi could not help but feel a little suspicious. Li Fan subconsciously glanced at Imperial Concubine Zhou. Why did they have to play this trick, deliberately mystifying things? Imperial Concubine Zhou did not think much of it. She only asked Li Fan to deliver the escort and conveniently meet him. She did not have any other intentions. But this place was obviously different. Escort leader, please be careful. There seems to be something strange in this residence. Uncle Wang reminded. It's fine. Isn't it just a residence? It can't eat people. Hichichi waved her hand. We are already here. Once we hand over the escort, we will complete our mission and leave. The Jianghu is dangerous. It's better to be more careful. Uncle Wang reminded. Uncle Wang, you are too timid. It's fine. How could we be so unlucky? Hichichi said as she walked forward and pushed open the door of the residence. In front of them was a courtyard covered in snow. There was not a single person inside. It was unknown how long it had been abandoned. There should be no one here. Just as Hichichi muttered to herself, the snow around them suddenly rolled up and blew towards them. Hichichi raised her hands to block the snowflakes in front of her. This place looked like it was snowing again. The white snow was like a fairy, frolicking in the courtyard. Two escorts carried the heavy iron box and walked in. Li Fan and Imperial Concubine Zhou glanced at each other. Then, they followed the remaining escorts into the gloomy and eerie Bai residence. After walking in, Li Fan seemed to hear someone whispering in his ear. The voice was trivial. He could not hear what was said, but he felt that it made his hair stand on end. Ridiculous. Could it be a haunted house? Li Fan did not believe it. In broad daylight, how could there be demons and ghosts? Moreover, he was full of righteousness and had a pure young body. Why would he be afraid of demons and ghosts? Just as Li Fan stepped into the courtyard, the door behind him suddenly squeaked and closed by itself. Damn, it's an automatic door. Everyone was a little frightened, but Li Fan relaxed. There was someone in this house, and it was an inner force master. His opponent's inner strength had also reached a superb level. It seemed that his cultivation was definitely not weak. Is this place haunted? Hichichi, who had been fearless just a moment ago, turned pale and subconsciously hid beside Li Fan. Brother Li, can you help me send the dart into the house? Li Fan really wanted to laugh. This little girl was so righteous before, but now she was terrified. It was no wonder. Things like ghosts and monsters were unpredictable. There were probably only a handful of people who weren't afraid. Escort leader, how could we trouble him? Uncle Wang immediately said, let us do it. The escorts mustered up their courage and walked towards the house in front of them. When they climbed up the steps, the door of the mansion, which was originally closed, suddenly opened slowly, as if it was welcoming them in. Even Uncle Wang started to feel afraid. Motherfucker, we have so many people here, what are you afraid of? Let's go in. As Uncle Wang spoke, he braced himself and led a few of his old brothers directly into the house. Li Fan was worried that something might happen to them, so he followed closely behind with Imperial concubine Zhou. You guys go ahead. I'll help you keep watch in the courtyard. Chi stood alone in the courtyard. A gust of wind blew and snowflakes on her face, startling this girl. Wait for me. I'll come too. Aren't you supposed to keep watch in the courtyard? Li Fan saw Chi walk quickly to his side and couldn't help but tease her. This escort leader should take the lead. How can I do something as useless as keeping watch? Aren't you afraid? What's there to be afraid of? It's broad daylight. Besides, this escort leader has nothing to fear. How can a small, abandoned house scare me? Chi said with a hint of dissatisfaction. Let's leave the dart in the house. Let's go back. Escort leader, the dart must be delivered to the other party. Uncle Wang reminded Chi, leaving it here isn't an escort leader's code of conduct. Li Fan's face turned red, and Imperial concubine Zhou, who was next to him, stared at him. Then what should we do? I don't see anyone in this house. Just leave it there. At this moment, an old and faintly discernible voice suddenly flew out and entered everyone's ears. Everyone acted as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Chi was so scared that she almost peed her pants. She immediately broke down and grabbed Li Fan's arm with tears in her eyes. You're a human or a ghost, come out. Although Li Fan's heart was beating like a drum, he couldn't be afraid with a girl by his side. Men were 10 times more courageous in front of women. He shouted and the voice rang out again. I don't know whether I'm a human or a ghost, but it's none of your business. Put the dart down. Let's go, the other party was asking them to leave. No, you can't, Chi, who was scared to death, gathered her courage and said, I don't know if you're a member of the Bai family. Come out and see me, then I can give you the dart. The employer had requested that the dart be delivered to the Bai family. Just like what Uncle Wang said, this was the rule. No matter how scared she was, she couldn't change the rule. Imperial concubine Zhou couldn't help but look at her. This little girl was a little interesting. All of you, get out. The voice seemed to be a little impatient. Then, a sudden gust of wind blew through the main hall. Uncle Wang and the other escorts were directly blown out of the house and fell outside the courtyard. Chi was also almost blown out, but fortunately, she was holding on to Li Fan's arm so she didn't fall out with him. Li Fan and Imperial concubine Zhou's feet seemed to be rooted to the ground. They stood there steadily, letting the wind blow past their faces. The two of them looked at each other. This wasn't a gust of wind at all, it was internal energy. It seemed that there was an expert in this house. Your internal energy is extraordinary, why don't you come out and see me? Li Fan asked in a loud voice. Why do you have to force me? The other party's voice seemed to have some hidden bitterness, but Li Fan cupped his hands. I'm sorry, our escort's rule is that the dart must be delivered to the other party before it can be considered as handing over the dart. If you don't come out, then we can't give you the dart and we can't leave. After saying that, Li Fan looked towards the door. Brothers, I'll come out with the dart. Where are you going? You're not allowed to go. The house's main door suddenly closed with a bang. Li Fan laughed loudly. You want to lock me up with such a small trick? After saying that, Li Fan didn't turn his head and swung his hand behind him. The two doors were directly sent flying by his internal energy. Chapter 905. There's no need to talk to him. Imperial concubine Zhou revealed an impatient look. She suddenly stretched out her right hand and pulled at the mural in front of her. The wall behind the mural directly shattered with a rumbling sound. The gravel rolled out, and black smoke billowed out. Chi was somewhat surprised. This second aunt had never made a move before. She thought that she was just an ordinary person. Unexpectedly, she was also a martial arts expert. The black smoke slowly dispersed. A figure was sitting behind the wall. Chi looked at this person and couldn't help but cover her mouth. This person is a bit scary. He had a head full of white hair, a thin face, and was wearing a Qing dynasty official uniform. His hands were placed on the armrest of the armchair. His nails were at least 10 centimeters long, like the claws of a beast. She didn't know whether this person was dead or alive. He sat there like a mummy. At that moment, Chi-Chi thought of a word, zombie. Could it be that this person is a zombie? Along with his appearance, a gust of chilly wind blew through the hall and blew on the three of them. Don't be afraid. He's a human. Li Fan felt Chi-Chi was trembling. He stretched out his hand and gently patted her back. At the same time, he transferred his true chi into her body. But his body is about to die. He's relying on his true chi to hang on to his life. This person is at least 150 years old. Imperial concubine Zhou looked at him from head to toe. If not for his powerful inner chi, I'm afraid he would have already died. Why are you disturbing me? The other party's voice was cold and angry. It couldn't be restrained. It was emitted and slanted on the three of them. I do what I want to do. Who do you think you are? You dare to question me? When Imperial concubine Zhou heard this, she immediately became unhappy. She was an imperial concubine of the previous dynasty. How could she be happy when an upright official from the later dynasty tried to assassinate her? Truly, courting death. The other party said and suddenly waved his hand. Several swords hanging on the wall in the room suddenly left their scabbards and shot toward Imperial concubine Zhou. Powerful true chi control. Even Li Fan couldn't help but praise. This person had not lived in vain for more than 100 years. At the very least, he had cultivated his internal energy to the extreme. Roughly estimating, he should be at the level of a grandmaster of a generation. What kind of martial arts is this? Chi-Chi looked at the flying swords in front of her in shock. She had just entered the martial arts world and had never seen such kung fu. Stand behind me. Li Fan reached out and pulled Chi-Chi behind him to protect her. A sword had already arrived in front of Li Fan, heading straight for the space between his eyebrows. This white-haired old man was ruthless and merciless. But Li Fan just stood there with his hands behind his back, as if he didn't care about the sword at all. Buzz! The sword suddenly stopped in front of Li Fan, as if it was blocked by an invisible force field. Li Fan activated his true chi domain. His powerful true chi directly grabbed the sword, making it unable to advance or retreat. As for Imperial concubine Zhou, there was no problem. She directly blew, and the flying swords immediately flew back. The white-haired old man's body slightly trembled, as if he was somewhat surprised. Together with the armchair he was sitting on, he began to spin, bringing with him a strong true energy, forming a whirlwind, wrapping around a few treasured swords, protecting his own body. Dang, dang, dang. Several swords flew out and nailed on the wall next to him. Who are you? Not being able to kill these people, the white-haired old man was obviously a little surprised. First, tell me who you are. Li Fan looked at the old man and asked. The old man wanted to continue, but seeing Li Fan and Imperial concubine Zhou, he finally swallowed his anger. These two people were very strong, and he was afraid that it would be difficult for him to defeat them alone. My story. You won't be interested. Leave here, let me accompany little Qing. If we don't know who you are, we won't hand over the dart. Li Fan stood next to the box. Why don't you directly come and snatch it? I am a member of the Bai family. My name is Bai Nanxing. The old man hesitated for a moment, but still said it. Inside the box is the personal belongings of my beloved. Please return it to me. Bai Nanxing, I seem to have heard of this name. Chi muttered, while Li Fan was also recalling. This old man's internal energy was very strong, and he should have some reputation in the Jianghu. My name is not worth mentioning. Everyone, this is my home, please leave. The old man gave the order to leave. What if this consort doesn't leave? Imperial concubine Zhou took a step forward, approaching the old man. Bai Nanxing glanced at Imperial concubine Zhou and saw her pair of eyes that were as deep as water. He didn't know why, but a trace of fear emerged in his heart, and he subconsciously slid away with the armchair. The world belongs to this consort. What do you dare to do? Who exactly are you? Bai Nanxing's voice was slightly trembling as he asked. This consort's name is not something that you are qualified to know. Imperial concubine Zhou sneered, seeing that your skills are not bad, why don't you make some contribution to this consort? With that, Imperial concubine Zhou extended her hand towards Bai Nanxing. Bai Nanxing suddenly lost control of himself, and his body slid towards Imperial concubine Zhou. But even Bai Nanxing, who had lived for more than 100 years, couldn't help but feel fear at this moment. Enough. Li Fan suddenly grabbed Imperial concubine Zhou, and the powerful suction force was broken. Bai Nanxing fell down from the armchair, kneeled on the ground, and gasped for breath. Why are you stopping this consort? Imperial concubine Zhou looked at Li Fan with dissatisfaction. If you were alone, then it's fine. Li Fan directly forbade, but beside me, you are not allowed to use the Vairocana Heart Sutra to absorb other people's power. You're so controlling. You can leave if you don't like it. Forget it. You're really an enemy. Imperial concubine Zhou was extremely angry. She flicked her sleeves and walked to the side. Undying evil Buddha. It's actually her. Bai Nanxing's face was covered in cold sweat. His originally mummified face was now even more unsightly. Who she is not important. Since you're a member of the Bai family, then leave that thing here. We're leaving. Li Fan looked at the old Bai Nanxing and actually felt some sympathy in his heart. Even if he was a spirit-connecting martial artist, he still couldn't withstand the ruthlessness of time. He didn't know if he would also be in such a sorry state after 100 years. No one can even think of leaving today. Suddenly, a burst of laughter came from the outside. It was as if the entire house was surrounded by laughter. Following that, the house was surrounded by a strong gust of wind and snow. Li Fan frowned. An expert was coming. Chapter 906. Just from the sound, one could tell how strong this person's inner force was. And when he arrived, there was a huge gust of wind around him. It could be seen how arrogant and confident he was. Who was it that was stirring up trouble? Li Fan and the rest looked towards the door and saw more than 10 evil faction disciples wearing red and black jackets, using Qin Gong, were coming from the sky. 4 of them were carrying a palanquin, on which some important personage was seated. It was they, or some great personage in the palanquin, who had brought about the gale. These people jumped over the wall and landed in the yard. Come in. Seeing that several devil cult disciples had begun to unsheath their swords, Li Fan immediately stretched out his hand and used his innate qi to pull the escorts back into the room. Everyone, don't even think about leaving today. Leave your lives here. The palanquin landed on the ground. A devil cult disciple respectfully lifted the palanquin curtain. A tall man wearing a red robe slowly walked down from inside. The man looked to be in his 40s. He had a full beard and his eyes glowed red. This person exuded a vicious aura. With one look, it was obvious that he had cultivated his demonic arts to the bone and was very powerful. Who are you? Li Fan gestured for the escorts to stay put. The other party did not come with good intentions, so it was best to be careful. I am the hall master of the Scarlet Blaze Hall, Zhang Bo, the man said arrogantly. Why aren't you kneeling when you see me? This one is the same as you, a little chunibyu. Li Fan looked at Imperial concubine Zhou and said, you two will have a lot of common topics to talk about. Imperial concubine Zhou rolled her eyes at Li Fan. For some reason, Li Fan quite liked to see Imperial concubine Zhou roll her eyes. It was probably an illness that needed to be treated. Hand over the green soul mirror and I'll spare your lives. Zhang Bo pointed at the box, but Chi raised her voice. Uncle, this is a dart from our Watergate escort agency. If you want the dart, you'll have to ask our saber first. As she spoke, she really picked up her sword and shield. The little girl was very bold. As the saying goes, newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. Uncle Wang and the other escorts were extremely nervous. They all understood how terrifying the enemy in front of them was. A hall leader of the devil cult was at the pinnacle of strength. Could they really stop a powerhouse who could do whatever he wanted in Jianghu? A little girl who doesn't know her place. Zhang Bo glanced at Hichichi. I can crush you with just one finger. Humph, what are you bragging about? Give it a try if you dare. With experts like Li Fan and Imperial Consort Zhou supporting her, Hichichi felt very confident. Courting death. Zhang Bo snorted coldly. He raised his right hand and quickly condensed the true qi in his palm. This true qi began to crazily rub against the air, quickly forming a ball of flame that wrapped around Zhang Bo's true qi fluctuations. Li Fan was a little surprised. He actually managed to ignite his true qi. Although Guan Wenbao could also do this, Guan Wenbao needed the assistance of a saber, while Zhang Bo could do it with his bare hands. It was amazing. He heard that Li Wei, the cult master of the cult, was best at using the ice flame divine technique. It seemed that the rumors were not groundless. Although his Qilin palm could also condense the power of two attributes, there was no way to create flames or frost. After all, it was just a palm technique that he had secretly learned from Murong Ying and Luo Shu. Zhang Bo swung his hand and threw a fireball that was the size of a soccer ball at Hichichi's head. Those who didn't know better would think that Zhang Bo was a mage who played with fireballs. The energy of true qi was indeed amazing. The fireball appeared in front of them in the blink of an eye, and Li Fan could feel the powerful energy contained in it. If he were to break it rashly, the explosion would probably hurt the others. Humph! How can the Bai residents allow you to be so presumptuous? Before Li Fan could say anything, the white-haired old man behind him, Bai Nanxing, was indignant. He sat there, stretched out his hands, and pushed them forward softly. Although he had no strength in his arms, his true qi surged forward like waves. The true qi hit the fireball and forcefully stopped it. Oh! Looking at the floating fireball, Zhang Bo raised his eyebrows. Rotten old man, after living for so long, your true qi is a bit interesting. As Zhang Bo spoke, the fireball was pushed back by Nanxing in one go. He stood there, raised his hand, and slapped the fireball away. Boom! The fireball landed on a small hill in the distance, and the flames exploded. When the flames dissipated, the small hill had already disappeared, and the entire place was razed to the ground. Hichichi's face turned pale. Did I actually challenge such a powerful guy? My God, when did so many powerful experts appear in the pugilistic world? Why haven't I seen any of them before? Daddy, the pugilistic world is so scary. It's okay, don't be afraid. Li Fan's true qi once again entered Chi-Chi's body and helped Chi-Chi stabilize her wildly beating heart. Your inner qi is indeed not bad, but why would I be afraid of a living dead person like you? What Zhang Bo said was indeed the truth. Although Bai Nanxing's inner qi had reached the level of a grandmaster, his physical strength was too weak, which dragged down his overall combat strength. As long as he had the chance to get close, he would be able to kill Bai Nanxing. A qualified martial artist could not be unorthodox. Cultivating both internal and external cultivation was the way of the king. This was the reason why some martial artists accepted disciples. When they grew old, even if their inner qi was strong, their bodies would not be able to keep up. Bai Nanxing, if you know what's good for you, obediently hand over the green soul mirror. Otherwise, you and this mansion will be burned to the ground. Zhang Bo opened his right hand, and his palm was burning with a scarlet flame. The heat was distorting the air. I will definitely not give up on little Qing. Bai Nanxing used all the inner qi in his body, and the entire mansion slowly trembled. Even Li Fan admired Bai Nanxing's true qi. It was indeed strong. Perhaps, if he continued to use his inner qi, the entire mansion would collapse. The dust on the roof fell down one after another. Li Fan opened up his innate qi domain to block the falling dust. Imperial concubine Zhou was too lazy to even circulate her true qi. She hid in Li Fan's true qi domain and did not come out. Zhang Bo did not wait for Bai Nanxing to use his inner qi. His body suddenly pulled out an afterimage and instantly entered the mansion. He arrived in front of Bai Nanxing, and at the same time, his right palm was covered in flames as he slapped towards Bai Nanxing. Bam! Bai Nansheng circulated his true qi and sealed Zhang Bo's flaming palm. However, Bai Nansheng was very reluctant. His forehead was covered in sweat. Circulating true qi also required physical strength. After fighting with Li Fan and the others, Bai Nansheng did not have any physical strength left. Right now, he was barely holding on. He was already gasping for breath. A fierce battle seemed to be inevitable. "Help who?" Imperial concubine Zhou asked at this time. Chapter 907. Help who? Imperial concubine Zhou asked. Of course it's to help Bai Nansheng. How could Li Fan help the devil cult? But don't worry, let's wait and see first. If the people of Jianghu were to see Imperial concubine Zhou's obedient appearance, their eyeballs would definitely fly out of their sockets. The dignified, undying evil Buddha actually revealed such an expression of a little girl. Bai Nansheng, today will be the day of your death. Zhang Bo roared as his eyes emitted a red light. His palm was about to press down on Bai Nansheng's head. However, Bai Nansheng's heart was concerned about the green soul mirror, as if he was concerned about his lover. He used all of his strength and almost exploded. The true qi on his body began to turn golden red. As the true qi hit Zhang Bo's palm, the flame on Zhang Bo's palm began to distort. Not bad. Zhang Bo laughed. He suddenly extended his left hand and released a scarlet flame from his palm. His left hand struck towards Bai Nansheng's temple, trying to kill him with a single palm strike. Bai Nansheng's true qi fluctuated violently. It seemed that it wouldn't be long before his true qi defense was completely torn apart. Li Fan thought for a moment and felt that he should help. Although he didn't like Bai Nansheng, Zhang Bo seemed to be even more annoying. Go to hell. Zhang Bo's palm was about to tear apart Bai Nansheng's defense, but at this moment, Li Fan suddenly made his move and grabbed Zhang Bo's left wrist. Zhang Bo frowned and glanced at Li Fan. Look at your paralysis. Li Fan raised his foot and directly kicked Zhang Bo's stomach. True qi erupted from Zhang Bo's body, forming a steel armor in an attempt to block Li Fan's foot. However, Li Fan's kick was not to be trifled with. It directly broke Zhang Bo's defense and fiercely kicked his stomach. Bam! Zhang Bo's body flew out, directly smashing the wall behind him and fell outside. Sorry, I don't like you. Li Fan moved his muscles and bones, stretching his body. The journey was too tiring. Li Fan really wanted to sleep. However, now that a strong opponent like Zhang Bo had appeared, Li Fan was a little excited and prepared to do some bedtime exercises. You're courting death. When Zhang Bo realized that someone dared to challenge him, he flew into a rage. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. As Zhang Bo spoke, he took a step forward and raised his palm. Flames condensed on his palm and he slammed it down on Li Fan's forehead. The power of this palm was not to be underestimated, but Li Fan wanted to resist it. That was because Murong Ying had a powerful flame palm that had once seriously injured Li Fan. Although Zhang Bo's flame palm was also very powerful, it was still lacking compared to Murong Ying's flame palm. However, he could test it out on Zhang Bo. Looking at the palm coming down on his head, Li Fan did not dodge. He directly raised his left hand and met the palm with a Qilin palm. Bang! The two people's palms collided. Li Fan did not move an inch, but Zhang Bo took a step back. True qi continuously burst out of his body. Obviously, he was hit by Li Fan's palm. His right hand was trembling slightly. Some parts of it were covered in frost, and some parts were emitting hot white mist. Li Fan's palm had caused some damage to him. However, the flame palm did not seem to leave any injuries. Li Fan's true qi completely offset the burning of the opponent's flames, so there was no difference. Amazing! Chi could not help but admire her big brother Li. Although she did not know who Big Brother Li was, his skill was indeed beautiful. Such a powerful devil church's leader was kicked away by Big Brother Li. Kid, who are you? Because of Li Fan's disguise, Zhang Bo could not see his identity. I'm your father, Li Fan said. His body suddenly appeared in front of Zhang Bo. At the same time, he threw an uppercut at Zhang Bo's chin. Zhang Bo stretched out his hand, trying to block Li Fan's fist. But Li Fan's true qi was like a cannonball. Pushing his fist, it actually tore through Zhang Bo's defense. His fist directly broke through Zhang Bo's palm and fiercely hit Zhang Bo's chin. Bang! Zhang Bo's body was directly hit and flew. His head hit the ceiling above. His whole body smashed through the ceiling and fell outside. Protect the leader! The devil church followers outside roared. A group of them rushed inside. Get lost! Imperial concubine Zhou was quite unhappy. These small fries dared to intrude on her side? Imperial concubine Zhou raised her right hand and pointed it at the door. All the devil church followers' bodies floated up and stopped in midair. Imperial concubine Zhou's palm closed. Bang, 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 the heads of more than 10 devil church followers exploded. Imperial concubine Zhou had just injected her true qi into several people's heads and forcibly detonated them. For a true qi expert like Imperial concubine Zhou, there was almost nothing impossible. But this move was too terrifying. Li Fan was a little afraid. Chi was so scared that her small face turned pale. Obviously, she had never seen such a terrifying move. At the same time, Zhang Bo also landed. He originally wanted to use his full strength to teach this brat a lesson. But seeing Imperial concubine Zhou's move, his scalp immediately went numb. My God! This woman, who is she? Her strength is so terrifying? Brat! If you have the guts, let's have a fight between men. Don't let a woman intervene. Zhang Bo's eyes turned and began to use the method of provocation on Li Fan. Sure. Li Fan didn't want Imperial concubine Zhou to intervene. She just conveniently sent away some small fries. Li Fan didn't understand. Right now, he also regarded these people's lives as grass. He didn't care about them at all. Zhang Bo breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, he was a little proud. This silly brat, he really fell for it. Although his strength was somewhat strong, he hid a part of his strength. As long as he took it out, he could definitely kill this brat. Brat, no matter who you are, you will die in this lord's hands today. This green soul mirror, this lord must have it. Who knew what this green soul mirror was, to actually make this Zhang Bo so obsessed? It was really too much. Raging flame divine art. Zhang Bo stretched out both his hands. Both hands were burning with flames at the same time. Then, with a flick of his hands, 2 fireballs were thrown towards Li Fan. Li Fan was already prepared. He stretched out his left hand and activated Crane Hand, slapping the 2 fireballs away. Boom, boom. One fireball lifted the roof, and the other fireball shattered the wall. But Zhang Bo's 2 fireballs were just a greeting gift. He walked a few steps to the front of Li Fan. Taking advantage of the time when Li Fan slapped the fireball away, he sent a fire palm over. Chapter 908. The fire palm had already reached Li Fan's chest. Imperial concubine Zhou crossed her arms and watched from the side. She wasn't worried about Li Fan. If he couldn't even deal with this Zhang Bo, how could he be the man she liked? The fire palm directly hit Li Fan's chest. At the same time, Zhang Bo was still laughing. Brat, you're dead this time. But immediately he couldn't laugh anymore. His palm was like a clay ox entering the sea. He couldn't exert any strength. He didn't know that Li Fan had already seen through his attack and had set up a defensive inner force in front of his chest. Dragon Toad's absorption of water. Right now, Li Fan didn't need to rely on his palm to release Dragon Toad's absorption of water. Because of his strong control over his true qi, he could release Dragon Toad's absorption of water from every part of his body. As long as he could see through his opponent's attack, he could set up a trap and wait for his opponent to fall for it. As expected, Zhang Bo had already fallen for it. His palm had already been sucked in by Li Fan. Zhang Bo felt that the true qi in his body was flowing backward. It was as if a hole had been exposed in the bathwater and was madly rushing into the hole. Damn it! Zhang Bo wanted to pull back his left hand, but it was as if his left hand was being sucked in by a black hole. If this continued, the true qi in his body would be completely sucked dry. Damn it! Zhang Bo had no choice but to extend his right hand and cut off his left hand. Then he sealed the wound on his wrist and retreated 3 meters away. He re-examined Li Fan. Your true qi is too fierce. If you practice for too long, I'm afraid your meridians will be damaged and you won't live to 50 years old. As Li Fan said this, he stretched out his right hand. Suddenly, a scarlet flame ignited in his palm. Li Fan was no longer the greenhorn from before. The current him had been baptized by too many battles. His understanding of martial arts had risen by who knows how many levels. Back then, he had absorbed the qi of a baihu of the embroidered uniform guards, but most of it had been wasted. Only a small portion was left, which could be used to increase his qi. However, now that Li Fan had absorbed the other party's jinqi, he could make use of it as he pleased. Not only that, he could also copy the other party's mental cultivation method and execute the other party's moves. Li Fan's growth had reached a terrifying level. You? What kind of monster are you? Zhang Bo's eyes were filled with shock. He couldn't believe his eyes. How could there be such a terrifying master in the current Jianghu? You don't need to know. Li Fan gave him one last warning. If you leave now, I can spare your life. This was what Zhang Bo had said earlier, and now it was being used on Zhang Bo himself. But Zhang Bo looked at Li Fan coldly. Do you think this is all this king's combat power is? You're just missing an arm. This seat can still kill you. With that, the true qi on Zhang Bo's body suddenly became violent, and the dark red true qi slowly turned black. It was as if someone had splashed ink on Zhang Bo's body. It was very obvious. Be careful. Imperial concubine Zhou finally couldn't help but warn him. This is the mysterious devil technique. I didn't expect it to be lost. Mysterious devil technique. Li Fan vaguely remembered that this was the second-ranked martial art in the Divine Technique Manual. This devil technique was said to be created by an expert of the devil sect in the early years, but it was later lost. Those who practiced this devil technique would have their mind damaged, and their temperament would change greatly. But at the same time, they would be invulnerable and their internal force would be strengthened by 10 times. It could be said that it was a kind of forbidden technique. Zhang Bo's body carried a powerful devil qi as he roared again and again. The surrounding objects were pushed away one after another. Even Bai Nanxing, who had astonishing internal force, couldn't help but use his hands to protect himself. As for the iron box in the middle of the room, it seemed to have been hit by the devil qi and suddenly bounced open with a bang. A bronze octagonal beast head mirror directly flew out from inside. Zhang Bo saw it with a glance. He stretched out his right hand and made a suction force in the air. The bronze mirror immediately floated there, slightly trembling in the air as if it was afraid of something. Haha, that's right, it's this green soul mirror. With this mirror, this seat's mysterious devil technique will be able to reach a higher level. Put down little blue. Bai Nanxing had already gone crazy. He carried the armchair and pounced towards Zhang Bo. At the same time, he stretched out his hand and pushed out a powerful internal force. Zhang Bo was quite disdainful as he turned his head and shouted at Bai Nanxing. Ha! A wave of air wrapped in black true energy rushed out and directly disintegrated Bai Nanxing's true energy before hitting Bai Nanxing's body. Even though he had true energy protecting his body, Bai Nanxing still suffered a terrible injury. The clothes on his body were all shredded, and the armchair he was sitting on was also shattered into sawdust. And he himself was also blown away, heavily crashing into the wall behind him. His body was embedded in it like a hanging painting. A mere ant dares to be impudent in front of this seat. After Zhang Bo used the devil technique, his internal force and self-confidence all swelled up. With every step he took, the ground would tremble, leaving a deep footprint on the floor, as if a huge beast had passed through. Now, who can stop this seat? Idiot! Li Fan instantly entered the state of Divine Dragon General. Wearing a golden armor, he instantly appeared beside Zhang Bo. Li Fan flew his leg and kicked towards Zhang Bo. Zhang Bo immediately raised his palm and tried to block Li Fan's kick. Bam! Zhang Bo's palm collided with Li Fan's flying leg. Zhang Bo was sent flying and slid for more than 3 meters before he stabilized his body. And Li Fan was also sent flying. He somersaulted twice in the air before barely landing on the ground and stabilizing his body. At the same time, his calves were still trembling. Zhang Bo's devil technique is a bit terrifying. His white deer reverse kick to the door was actually knocked back. Good boy, this seat has really underestimated you. Zhang Bo's eyes were already blood red. He looked at Li Fan with a mocking smile. This golden armor and the white deer kick just now have already exposed your identity. Little tyrant Li Fan, I didn't expect to meet you here. How interesting. Little tyrant Li Fan? He Chi-Chi and the escorts were a little surprised. This was the gold medal escort? The infamous little tyrant Li Fan in the escort industry? Heavens! To actually meet him. But the two of them did not look alike at all. Could it really be a disguise technique? Uncle Wang suddenly had a realization. He heard that Li Fan was proficient in the abnormality bone-changing technique. It seemed like the rumors were true. So what if I am, so what if I am not? Li Fan was like a divine general descending from the sky. He stood there and stretched out his hand. Extraordinary sword flew out and landed in his palm, making him look very impressive. Chapter 909. Li Fan, even if you didn't come, I would still have gone to kill you. Zhang Bo raised his right hand and condensed a black fireball in his palm. Today is just the right time to settle old and new grudges together. With that, Zhang Bo shot out the fireball towards Li Fan. Li Fan gathered his true qi in his eyes. He saw that the power of the black fireball was about 10 to 20 times that of an ordinary red fireball. If he rashly touched it, he would most likely suffer. Li Fan's true qi gathered on his right hand. The entire golden armor began to compress, condensing into a golden gauntlet that draped over Li Fan's right hand. Everything stopped. Li Fan's right hand touched the black fireball. He had already analyzed the fireball's data. The moment he touched it, his true qi immediately surged into it and instantly disintegrated its power. Bam! The black fireball directly turned into nothingness and dissipated into the air. What? Zhang Bo was shocked. He never thought that his black fireball would be destroyed just like that. Impossible. Little Overlord Li Fan truly lived up to his name. Ever since the battle with Murong, not only was this guy not affected, he had become even more powerful. How did he train his skills? Did he use a cheat code? True Dragon Hand. Li Fan once again raised his right hand that was covered in armor. The surrounding true qi began to fluctuate. The treasured swords that were previously inserted in the surroundings were suddenly pulled out. A total of 8 swords were lined up beside Li Fan. The current Li Fan was more like a sword immortal. Using true qi to control treasured swords, this was the second time he Chi-Chi had seen such a cool technique. Although Bai Nansheng had used it before, it seemed to be even more cool when used by Li Fan. Go! Li Fan pointed at Zhang Bo. The 8 treasured swords immediately turned around and flew towards Zhang Bo. Humph! Insignificant skill. Zhang Bo didn't seem to care about Li Fan's 8 swords. He stretched out his hand and pushed out his fire palm. The flaming palm expanded infinitely in the air, forming a 2-meter-wide flaming palm that collided with the 8 swords. Boom! Out of the 8 swords, 7 were burnt to ashes. The remaining 1 pierced through the flames and arrived in front of Zhang Bo in an instant. Zhang Bo didn't expect that he would be tricked by Li Fan. Of the 8 swords, only 1 contained true power. The other 7 were just a smokescreen. The power of a point was greater than that of a surface. Li Fan's attack was focused on a single point, so it was easy for him to break his own attack. Poof! Zhang Bo dodged in a panic, but the sword still grazed his lower abdomen on the left side, penetrated the wall behind him, and escaped into the air. However, Li Fan frowned because his sword had only scratched Zhang Bo's lower abdomen and left a small trace of blood. Zhang Bo's mysterious demonic power had greatly enhanced his defensive power, making his body extremely hard. The current Zhang Bo's body might be even harder than steel. Hee, Although your attack is a bit powerful, you are still not this lord's opponent. After Zhang Bo revolved the mysterious demonic power, he was very confident in himself. Li Fan, you are a thorn in the side of solipsism. Today you must die here. After saying that, Zhang Bo revolved his demonic power and unceasingly launched attacks at Li Fan. Even with only one arm, Zhang Bo's attack rhythm was still very complete. After all, with a powerful demonic power to protect his body, Zhang Bo was very confident in his own body. Zhang Bo's consecutive palm strikes finally arrived in front of Li Fan. His palm struck towards Li Fan's forehead. Die! Zhang Bo continuously suppressed Li Fan. This move was a sure kill. However, Li Fan suddenly laughed, causing Zhang Bo's heart to jump wildly. But after being suppressed for so long, he could still laugh before his death? Li Fan's body suddenly accelerated, exceeding Zhang Bo's expectation. At the same time, he dodged Zhang Bo's palm and then used Dianhe with his right hand, poking the acupoint under Zhang Bo's armpit. Zhang Bo's body suddenly stiffened and fell into a short period of stiffness. Although it was very short, it was enough for Li Fan. All things stop. Li Fan's right hand suddenly clasped the top of Zhang Bo's head. Zhang Bo did not have time to react. The true qi in his body instantly dissipated. It was as if it had been removed. Zhang Bo was greatly shocked. Li Fan's all things stop used the power of his true dragon hand to forcefully remove the opponent's energy. No matter what kind of energy, under the effect of Li Fan's all things stop, it could be removed for 3 to 4 seconds. Speaking of which, it was more like the utilization of dragon toad absorption. In the past, Li Fan's dragon toad absorption had 2 methods. One was to absorb the opponent's true qi, the other was to imbue the opponent with his own true qi. But as Li Fan's realm increased, he discovered that true qi was also a kind of energy. Humans replenished their energy by absorbing food. At the same time, the human body had tens of thousands of pores, excreting more energy through metabolism, leaving only a small amount to drive the body. If these pores were closed, the human's energy would be 100% used. Li Fan could now control the closure of his pores through aberration bone change, but he could not maintain it for too long. Because after the pores were closed, although he could use 100% of the energy, it would consume his body's functions at a high speed. With Li Fan's ability, he could only use it for about a minute. But if he used this technique in reverse, he could use the opponent's pores to instantly dissipate the energy in the opponent's body. He could maintain it for about 3 to 4 seconds, then the opponent's pores would return to normal and the true qi in the body would return. But for Li Fan, 3 to 4 seconds was enough to do a lot of things. Zhang Bo, goodbye. Li Fan tricked Zhang Bo into advancing, then dissipated his true qi and kicked his calf. Pfft. Zhang Bo knelt on the ground from the kick. If it weren't for his strong physique, this kick would have broken his calf. But Zhang Bo also lost his balance. He knelt down, and Li Fan's knee directly hit his cheek. Pfft. Another muffled sound rang out, and 2 of Zhang Bo's teeth were broken. He was sent flying and fell hard on the ground, his face covered in blood. One of Zhang Bo's eyeballs had been smashed. He lay there, unable to even speak. He did not dare to accept the fact that he had suffered a crushing defeat. He clearly had a chance to win. Li Fan, this kid, was so sinister. He actually tricked me into advancing. Zhang Bo wished that time could go back. If he made a move again, he would definitely be able to kill Li Fan. But there was no time to regret. Li Fan walked over step by step, preparing to finish off Zhang Bo. But at this time, Zhang Bo stretched out his hand and suddenly touched the green soul mirror. Zhang Bo's single eye suddenly opened, and a smile appeared on his bloody mouth. Ha! Even the heavens are helping me. Chapter 9-10. Zhang Bo touched the green soul mirror. This mirror suddenly emitted a black light, as if responding to Zhang Bo's power. Li Fan sensed that something was amiss. He jumped onto Zhang Bo's head and stomped down towards Zhang Bo. Clink. Zhang Bo raised his right hand and used the green soul mirror to block Li Fan's foot. This fragile mirror became like steel under the wrapping of Zhang Bo's power, forcefully blocking Li Fan's foot. Bang! The mirror shot out radiance, directly sending Li Fan's body flying out, landing to one side. This green soul mirror is a supreme treasure for cultivating fiend arts. Zhang Bo's mouth dripped with blood. He slowly stood up, revolved his true energy, and directly stuck this green soul mirror on his chest. Li Fan could even hear his heartbeat. It was robust and powerful. It did not seem like he had been injured at all. Even if this seat is missing a hand, an eye, I can still become invincible under the heavens all the same. After Zhang Bo obtained the green soul mirror, he seemed to have become even more confident. Not just confidence, Li Fan also felt that his power was growing crazily. He did not know what this green soul mirror was, to actually be able to enhance his power. Zhang Bo roared 3 times. His entire person entered a mysterious state. At the same time, the originally clear skies suddenly became overcast with dark clouds, as if infected by fiendish energy. Darkness shrouded the top of this mansion, making everyone feel a burst of oppression. Roar! Zhang Bo roared again. The true energy on his body rose to the limit. The ceiling of this mansion was lifted up. Even Li Fan's body was pushed back a step lightly. It could be seen how powerful the power that Zhang Bo erupted with was right now. Prepare to die! Zhang Bo's right hand aimed at Li Fan. 5 black fireballs suddenly flew out of his palm. The speed was extremely fast, instantly attacking Li Fan's body. Bang! Bang! Fireballs exploded one after another. Li Fan was knocked back repeatedly, finally falling to the ground and leaping up again. But Zhang Bo already arrived in front of Li Fan, a palm smacking on his body. Bang! Li Fan's body was heavily smashed into the ground, his body embedded inside. Zhang Bo lifted his right foot and repeatedly stepped on Li Fan's body. The entire house kept shaking, and Li Fan's body sank deeper and deeper. You're not going to help. When Chi saw that Li Fan was seriously injured, she was frightened and couldn't help but look at Imperial Concubine Zhou. If he's finished just like that, then he's not fit to stand by this consort's side. Imperial Concubine Zhou crossed her arms and stood there barefooted. She looked extremely beautiful. Such a beautiful woman was definitely the target of all men's pursuit. Chi pondered for a moment. Perhaps only a man like Li Fan was worthy of this woman. Didn't they say she was his second aunt? Why does it feel like she's his lover now? Could it be the legendary, indecent love? Chi suddenly blushed, not knowing what to say. Haha, this seat is invincible under the heavens. Zhang Bo excitedly roared. The more he stepped, the more excited he became. But in the next second, Li Fan stretched out his hand and grabbed his foot. Did you enjoy the kick? Li Fan asked. You're actually still alive. Go to hell. Zhang Bo sneered. His foot was wrapped with powerful true energy, and he fiercely stomped down on Li Fan. But Li Fan suddenly stretched out his hand and pushed Zhang Bo's body away. Zhang Bo's body flew over the high wall of the house and fell outside the courtyard. Li Fan slowly stood up from the ground. He patted off the dust on his body, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and then moved his muscles and bones. His bones issued a cracking sound. Li Fan slowly adjusted his state. The injuries on his body were slowly recovering, and the blood in Li Fan's body began to boil. His heart began to beat fast, like a motor starting. At the same time, all the pores on his body were sealed. The power in his body formed an internal cycle and began to circulate at a high speed. White smoke directly emerged from Li Fan's skin. His whole body's skin turned red as if it was on fire. Playing tricks. Zhang Bo bounced up from the ground. At the same time, he stretched out his right hand and once again released 5 black and red fireballs toward Li Fan. But Li Fan's body directly moved forward. Without even looking, he only used the surrounding true energy to deflect the 5 fireballs and then arrived in front of Zhang Bo. Zhang Bo saw Li Fan's face suddenly appear, and his heart was shocked. Li Fan had already stretched out a finger and flicked it on Zhang Bo's forehead. Bang! Zhang Bo's body directly turned into a cannonball and flew out in an instant, smashing the courtyard wall. In the blink of an eye, he flew 100 meters away, digging a long gully on the ground, and then lying on the ground with his face covered in dust. Zhang Bo's heart was already filled with fear. What the hell is this Li Fan? How come I can't beat him even after using the mysterious devil skill and green soul mirror? But Li Fan suddenly fell from the sky. At the same time, he grabbed a sword with both hands and fiercely stabbed it into Zhang Bo's chest. Puff! Zhang Bo's body was nailed to the ground. He spat out a mouthful of black blood and somewhat unwillingly looked at Li Fan. You? Why? Zhang Bo couldn't understand why Li Fan suddenly became so powerful. His body was somewhat red, and his body was still slowly emitting white smoke. Go to hell and ask the king of hell, Li Fan said, and with a slash of the sword in his hand, Zhang Bo's body was directly cut into two halves. Zhang Bo didn't even have time to understand before his life was cut off by Li Fan. Li Fan put down the sword, and the white smoke on his body slowly disappeared. His skin also returned to its normal color. But Li Fan's breathing was a lot heavier. The set of attacks just now had obviously consumed a lot of his energy. Li Fan reached out his hand to take the green soul mirror. Don't! Imperial concubine Zhou's voice seemed to reach his ears, but Li Fan's hand had already touched the green soul mirror. He felt his body suddenly being pulled, and then his vision began to blur. Then, in his line of sight, that Gidge who was in the middle of dressing appeared again. She sat there quietly as if she didn't know of Li Fan's existence, and was peacefully combing her hair. Li Fan stood not far behind her, looking at her, feeling very strange in his heart. How did I come to such a place? Who is she? Bai Lang, you came? Gidge sat there as if she was talking to Li Fan. Li Fan subconsciously turned his head to take a look, and a handsome man wearing the Qing dynasty's official uniform walked in from the door. He directly half knelt on the ground and saluted Gidge. Li Fan took a look. This should be Bai Nanxing. At this moment he was still very young, and his body was strong, but his expression was a bit stiff. Why are you still kneeling, really? Gidge was still busy dressing. I'm going to marry you soon. Gidge, this subject will definitely make you happy. Chapter 9-11. So inflexible. Gidge sighed and finally turned around. This was an extremely beautiful woman with a small mole on her forehead. Her eyes were filled with liveliness and quick-wittedness. If I marry you in the future, my life will definitely be very boring. This subject will definitely treat Gidge well. Bai Nanxing seemed to be a little flustered as Gidge covered her mouth and chuckled. Look at your silly look. Quickly get up. You are already going to get married. Why are you still being so polite? Gidge walked over and helped Bai Nanxing up. This subject is guilty. What crime? In the future, you must treat me well. Gidge grabbed Bai Nanxing's sturdy arm with both hands and looked at Bai Nanxing with eyes filled with tenderness. After we get married, let's go to Japan. Gidge said, I heard that it is quite good there. If we go there, no one will be able to catch us. But, will His Highness let us go? Bai Nanxing was still a little worried. Why don't you let me talk to His Highness? Are you crazy? Gidge rolled her eyes at him. With Ma's personality, he will definitely not agree. He always wanted me to marry the warlord Zhang de Peo, but I don't want it. His Highness, he's always dreaming of restoration. According to me, the times have changed. His Highness has already moved out of the Forbidden City. He's the only one who is stubborn. His Highness will always be our master. He is the Son of Heaven. Why are you like my Ma? Always shouting that His Highness wants to return to the Forbidden City. Gidge pouted and was a little dissatisfied. Let's hurry up and think about going to Japan. I plan to study there. You can open a dojo there. We will definitely live well there. Wherever Gidge goes, I will go. Bai Nanxing nodded. Never leave. Silly look. Chuckling, she said, then accompany me to buy the tickets. We'll set off tonight. Bai Nanxing nodded. But at this moment, a sudden noise came from outside. Li Fan looked out of the window and saw that the main gate of the courtyard had been knocked open. A group of Qing soldiers carrying long sabers rushed into the courtyard and guarded it. A middle-aged man with a long braid and wearing a crimson robe walked in aggressively from the outside. "Oh no, it's Amma, let's go from the back." He grabbed Bai Nanxing's arm and said, "Since His Highness is already here, he must be blocked from the front and back. Let me go and talk to him. I have fought for His Highness for many years, he will definitely agree." "You idiot, you can't." Before Gij could finish her words, the prince, who was standing outside, had already lifted his leg and kicked over the door, barging in. "Prince." Bai Nanxing knelt in front of His Highness and cupped his hands. This matter cannot be blamed on Gij. It was this minister who wanted to take her away. "Dog slave." His Highness kicked Bai Nanxing's face, sending him to the ground. "Amma, don't hit him." Gij hurriedly rushed forward and hugged Bai Nanxing. "You are truly making me lose face." His Highness angrily rebuked. Just as Bai Nanxing was about to speak, His Highness waved his hand. "Men, drag this audacious dog slave out and break his dog legs." "Amma, don't." Gij tried to pull Bai Nanxing away, but he was dragged away by a few vicious servants. "Pack up. Today, you are going to marry into the Zhang family." His Highness said, "I have already told him that you are going to be his second concubine. Although he already has 18 wives, he will not let you be two concubine for this prince's sake. If you marry him, he will promise to provide me with 20,000 men, as well as firearms." "I am your daughter, and you are treating me as a commodity to be gifted to others?" Gij's tears flowed out. "How can this be called gifting? This is called a political marriage." His Highness said loudly, "As my daughter and Gij of the Great Qing, you should have had this kind of awareness long ago. Furthermore, Zhang Depao's current military strength is very strong. In the future, he will definitely be our Great Qing State Protector General. At that time, you will be able to live a good life." "That is not the life that I want to live. Bai Nanxing and I are truly in love. Please let us go." Gij cried as she said to her father, He is just a dog slave. Although his martial arts are not bad, he is currently playing with firearms. No matter how good his martial arts are, can it help me restore the Great Qing dynasty? What I want are firearms, not a slave." With that said, two muffled sounds came from outside, as well as the sound of bones breaking. Bai Nanxing did not scream, but Gij already knew what had happened. She knelt on the floor without any strength left in her body. "All right, don't be willful. Pack up and quickly marry Zhang Depao. His Majesty is still living outside. This is truly preposterous." "Then please let me dress up." Gij wiped away her tears and said, "All right, to pack up. No matter what, you are my daughter. When you marry out, you will definitely be grand." "Yes, you will definitely leave in a grand manner." Gij nodded her head and invited His Highness out of the room. His Highness ordered people to surround the room to prevent Gij from escaping. After waiting for half an hour, Gij still did not come out. His Highness was a little impatient and urged people to call for Gij. Gij, are you ready?" The servants knocked on the door for a long time, but no one responded. His Highness felt that something was wrong. He kicked open the door, only to find that Gij had already hung herself in the room. In the process, Li Fan watched helplessly as Gij hung herself. She tore off the white silk, tied it to the beam, and hung herself on it. "In the next life, I am willing to be your wife." Gij kicked the bench and closed her eyes. And Li Fan could only watch her die. The next second, Li Fan felt as if someone was strangling his neck, making him unable to breathe. He was pulled into a deserted house. A woman was desperately strangling his neck, looking at him with a pair of blood-red eyes. Li Fan was flabbergasted. Is this a human or a ghost? At this time, the door was suddenly knocked open, and a person dressed like a Taoist priest stood there. Which evildoer dares to cause trouble here? The Taoist priest directly strode over, holding a talisman in his hand, and pasted it on the woman's forehead. The woman screamed and instantly hid behind the mirror on the dressing table. The Taoist priest walked over and sealed the mirror with the talisman. Li Fan. Come here. Before Li Fan could see the mirror clearly, he was abruptly pulled back to the real world by Imperial Concubine Zhou's voice. Imperial Concubine Zhou stood beside him, and the green soul mirror was still quietly lying beside him. What did he just see? Chapter 9:12. Female Ghost. Imperial Concubine Zhou frowned as she looked at Li Fan. This consort knows about the necromancer. He acts like a ghost every day. However, this consort is not sure if there really is a ghost. At that time, who knows how many concubines and palace maids died in the palace, and the Yin energy was very dense. The necromancer also set up a feng shui spell, but this consort does not know if it was effective or not. I did see it just now. It was especially real. Li Fan's memory was still fresh. It was as if those scenes were still in front of him. What I saw, was it real or fake? Little Blue, I'm coming, Bai Nanxing had unknowingly crawled to their side. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the green soul mirror, hugging it in his embrace. As for the qi in his body, it was as if it was leaking as it crazily sucked into the green soul mirror. Bai Nanxing was getting older and older. He was originally like a dried corpse, but now he was like a skeleton. He half knelt on the ground and hugged the green soul mirror tightly, unwilling to let go. Li Fan could vaguely see a woman wearing a beautiful qipao slowly walking out from the void and gently hugging Bai Nanxing. Bai Nanxing's body instantly began to decay. Along with the green soul mirror in his hand, he was vaporized in the air. There was nothing left in front of him. It was as if Bai Nanxing and the green soul mirror had never existed. A woman's voice faintly sounded in Li Fan's ears. Thank you. Imperial Concubine Zhou was also standing at the side. She did not make a sound and only blinked her eyes. You saw it too? Li Fan knew that Imperial Concubine Zhou must have seen the scene just now. It should all be an illusion. Imperial Concubine Zhou asserted. An illusion that both of us saw at the same time? Li Fan frowned. Everything just now must be real. Even if we don't want to admit it, these things still exist. It was still energy. Li Fan's thoughts were not wrong. Everything in this world was made up of energy. His qi, the mutant's superpower, and the woman hiding in the mirror. They all survived in a strange way. Even if it's a ghost, it is still not this consort's opponent. Imperial Concubine Zhou crossed her arms and was unusually arrogant. She had the strength to say such words. She was an unparalleled woman. The image of Murong Ying suddenly appeared in Li Fan's mind. If these two women were to be compared, who would be stronger? In terms of power, Imperial Concubine Zhou was definitely stronger. But in terms of character, Murong Ying did not lose. However, Murong Ying was a woman with a strong sense of responsibility. She regarded the fate of Murong Villa as more important than anything else. If she could let go of Murong Villa, he might really be able to be with her. However, he did not have the right to criticize Murong Ying. Even if she could let go of Murong Villa, he could not let go of Fifan Escort Agency. Everything was relative. Murong Ying had things she cared about, and he had things he cared about too. Even if the two of them were in love with each other, their ideals were different. Li Fan sighed. There were too many things to worry about. Li Fan? Li Fan? Where are you guys? It was unknown when the snowstorm started, but He Chi-Chi's voice could be heard from afar. I'm here. Li Fan readjusted his emotions and walked through the snowstorm towards He Chi-Chi. It's getting more and more interesting. Imperial Concubine Zhou mumbled. It seemed that there would always be many interesting things happening around Li Fan. All right. She only followed him because it was fun. She was definitely not sticking to him. He was just her boy toy. That's right, boy toy. When Li Fan was away from the escort agency, Xia Ho was busy dealing with the matters of the agency every day. Xia Ho missed her junior brother very much and did not know when he would return. He should have returned yesterday, but for some reason, he did not arrive today. Xia Ho was very worried. Her junior brother had made too many enemies. Would anything happen to him outside? Li Fan finally returned after Xia Ho's repeated calls. However, Xia Ho pouted and was very displeased. because her junior brother brought back 2 women, one more beautiful than the other. Imperial concubine Zhou? When Yan Kai saw Imperial concubine Zhou entering the door, he was on guard. Oh, isn't this the little Taoist from Wudong? Imperial concubine Zhou crossed her arms and stood there barefooted, looking at Yan Kai. The surrounding dust seemed to be afraid of Imperial concubine Zhou and did not touch her at all. This place will be ruled by me in the future. Although you are quite handsome, you are not my cup of tea. Well, you can be my eunuch. Tai Chi Yin-Yang formation. Yan Kai was immediately enraged. He suddenly stretched out his hands, each carrying the power of Yin and Yang, preparing to launch a special move. However, Li Fan stretched out his hand and pulled his arm. Yan Kai, don't be impulsive. Li Fan said, she is under my control now. Yan Kai was dumbfounded. Who is under your control? Just as Imperial concubine Zhou was about to speak, Li Fan frowned and glanced at her. Imperial concubine Zhou did not say anything. Yan Kai wanted to tremble. Li Fan is too awesome. Not only did he control the martial arts world's leader, Murong Ing, but now he even conquered the undead evil Buddha, Imperial concubine Zhou? Damn, could it be that this kid did not rely on martial arts but on his dick? This is He Chi-Chi, the head escort of the Shui Men Escort Agency. Li Fan pointed at He Chi-Chi, who was peeking her head out and introduced, she is here to learn some skills of running an escort agency. Oh my god. Yang Shuiwei covered her mouth. What's wrong? Li Fan glanced at her. No, nothing. Yang Shuiwei swallowed the rest of her words. What else can it be? Of course, it's our escort agency that is not worth learning. Yan Kai curled his lips. We are almost out of food. The situation is a bit embarrassing, but aren't we trying our best? Li Fan coughed twice and said, it won't be long before the escort agency's business will get better and better. Isn't it just money? Imperial concubine Zhou said indifferently, however much you need, this concubine will have. I know you're a little rich woman. Li Fan rejected Imperial concubine Zhou's good intention, but regarding the escort agency, I want to rely on my own ability to develop. If I rely on external forces, it will be meaningless. You're quite concerned about your face. Imperial concubine Zhou sighed. Sometimes, a man's unnecessary dignity was really boring. Of course, face is a must. Li Fan emphasized, a man strives for his dignity, and a Buddha strives for his incense stick. If you don't have any ideals and dignity, then what's the point of living? Fine. You're amazing. Imperial concubine Zhou stretched her body. Arrange a room for this concubine. This concubine is going to go into seclusion. You just arrived and you're going into seclusion? Nonsense, you won't let this concubine absorb other people's true chi. In order to maintain my youth, this concubine has lost a lot of true chi. How can I not go into seclusion to cultivate? Imperial concubine Zhou rolled her eyes at Li Fan. What else do you want this concubine to do? Chapter 9:13. Li Fan arranged for Imperial concubine Zhou to go into seclusion to cultivate. He also let He Chi-Chi take on the job of an escort in the escort agency and follow Yan Kai. Only then did he feel at ease to go to school. That's right, to go to school. The end of the year had passed, and the holidays were also over. Li Fan's next step was to face a continuous sprint for the college entrance examination. For every year's senior students, after the new year, it was the start of the battle. There are only 100 days left before the college entrance examination. After school, Lin Yihan packed her bag and asked Li Fan, how are you going to spend it? Of course, I'm going to study well. I've been neglecting my studies too much recently. Li Fan looked at the countdown on the blackboard. It said that there were 102 days left until the college entrance examination. Then, he didn't have to think about the extra 2 days. After 100 days, his high school career would end, and he would embark on a new path in life. There are still 100 days left. Lin Ying suddenly looked at Li Fan with some hidden bitterness. That gaze made Li Fan a little nervous. What's going on? Yeah. I will definitely study well. Don't worry. No, it's something else. At this time, there was no one else in the class. Lin Yuthan stood there charmingly, slightly tilting her head. Today, she combed her hair into a side braid that hung over her shoulder, looking very playful. Look at me first. Are there any changes? You changed your hairstyle? No. Other things? Then what is it? Oh, you're wearing your school badge today. What? Lin Yuthan was a little unhappy. She pointed at her lips and said, Today, put on makeup. Li Fan looked carefully. It was true. In the past, Lin Yuthan would always wear bare face, but today, she seemed to have put on some light makeup. She put on a different lip gloss and it looked delicious. What's wrong? The lip gloss seems delicious. Go to hell, Lin Yuthan was furious. This damned Li Fan, why doesn't he understand romance? What is it? Hurry up and tell me. I'll definitely help if I can. Li Fan suddenly remembered the reason why Lin Yuthan looked for him. Didn't she have something to tell him? There are only 100 days left. Can you be my boyfriend? Today was Valentine's Day. It was snowing outside. Lin Yuhsian blushed. She clearly had the courage just now, but now she was stuttering. Ah! Li Fan was stunned by her words and suddenly didn't know how to answer. Well, although I shouldn't say this, the engagement between you and Ms. Murong has been cancelled. I think I'm qualified to be your girlfriend. Lin Yuthan had endured for a long time, and she finally dared to confess on Valentine's Day. After 100 days, we might be admitted to different universities. So, I want to cherish these 100 days and live with you. After Lin Yuthan brought up her idea, Li Fan felt that he understood. However, he didn't expect that after so long, this girl still liked him. Can I? Lin Yuthan asked a little pleadingly, just 100 days? After 100 days, we'll be separated? Okay, I promise you. 100 days passed by in a flash. Lin Yuhsian had also helped him a lot. During the escort agency's most difficult times, she was also in charge of the agency's accounts. She solved a large part of the agency's financial problems. Most importantly, he seemed to have fallen for Lin Yuthan. There were few people who wouldn't like a campus belle like her. However, Li Fan didn't know who he liked. What he wanted to do most now was to improve his strength as soon as possible and enter the level of a true grandmaster. He had too many enemies, and many of them were masters among masters. If he slacked off, he would only be ruthlessly killed by them. I knew you wouldn't agree. Originally, Lin Yuthan only had the courage to speak her mind and didn't have much hope. This was because she couldn't understand Li Fan at all. It seemed that he treated every woman the same. In contrast, he treated his little disciple and sister-in-law the best. He also seemed to care a lot about Lu Zhu. Yes, especially Lu Zhu. As a girl, Lin Yuthan was very sensitive in this aspect. Every time Li Fan looked at Lu Zhu, the way he looked at her was different. Although she didn't have much hope, but Li Fan actually agreed? You really agreed? Lin Yuthan's heart seemed to have bloomed. She was very happy. Yes, I agreed. Seeing Lin Yuhsian's excited look, Li Fan hurriedly reminded her, there's only 100 days. At that time, everyone will finish their university exams and go to their own schools, so it doesn't count. With Lin Yuhsian's results, Peking University and Tsinghua University were basically at her whim. She could just casually go to a university. Although Li Fan repeatedly emphasized these conditions and requirements, Lin Yuthan was still very happy. She hugged Li Fan's arm. Then for these 100 days, you're mine. Why do you look like you've picked up a treasure? Li Fan couldn't help but stretch out his hand and gently scratch Lin Yuthan's nose. Humph, you're my treasure. Since there was no one in the classroom, Lin Yuthan was very casual. She pouted her mouth and snorted. Other than Murong, I'm the first to like you. According to the order of first come, first served, it's my turn. What kind of logic is this? Li Fan's cold sweat flowed down. I don't care, send me home. It had been a long time since Li Fan sent Lin Yuhsian home. Lin Yuthan missed the time when the two of them rode the bike to and from school. Originally, she thought that those times were gone forever, but now there was a chance. This made Lin Yueten really excited. Okay, I'll ask brother's son to drive the car in. No, let's ride the bike back. Lin Ying still insisted on riding the bike to and from school every day. Her bike was parked downstairs. Such a cold day? You won't feel cold. I'm afraid you'll feel cold. I won't feel cold if I hug you. You're just a young lady, don't you know how to be shy? Lin Ying was proud of herself. It's just 100 days. I don't want to be shy. I want to make good use of you. I sell my skills, not my body. Screw you. Lin Yuzhen secretly pinched Li Fan's waist. I don't want to give it to you. Is there really no chance? Li Fan deliberately teased Lin Yuzhen. Lin Yuzhen's little face blushed. Didn't I tell you earlier? I'm not that traditional. You have to be my official boyfriend, then I can give it to you. We're not official now. Yeah, then let's start with kissing. Lin Yuzhen tiptoed and slowly moved toward Li Fan. It's not good to do it in the classroom. Wait, let me close the classroom door first. The two of them were about to kiss. Li Fan's blood was already boiling. At this moment, Lin Ying suddenly pushed him away. I'm not giving it to you. 100 days is just a temporary job. Lin Yuzhen giggled and ran out of the door. Chapter 9:14. Just like that, Lin Yuzhen became Li Fan's girlfriend. Gossips spread very quickly. Especially in the 12th grade environment, all the students were very depressed. At this time, a new romantic news would definitely spread throughout the school. In just a few days, the whole school knew about the two of them dating. Because of this, Li Fan was directly called to the principal's office. The new principal was a woman in her 50s. She looked very amiable and was said to be a famous educator. She learned a lot of advanced education methods overseas and wanted to try it out in the country. However, no matter how advanced an educator was, in this crucial moment where thousands of soldiers and horses were squeezing onto a single plank bridge, they did not dare to relax. She called Li Fan to her office and poured him a cup of hot tea. The weather is cold, you need to wear more clothes. The principal looked at Li Fan, who was only wearing a thin sportswear, and said with concern, Sorry for worrying about you. I have practiced martial arts for many years. This little bit of cold is nothing to me. The matter of Li Fan practicing martial arts was known by almost everyone in the school. Even the principal, who had just been transferred here, knew about it. He just didn't quite believe it. No matter how strong your body is, you can't go against the laws of nature. The principal patted Li Fan's shoulder. You are still young, you can't ruin your body. When you reach our age, you will know that you are at a disadvantage. Thank you for the reminder, principal. Li Fan did not continue to refute. After all, the principal had good intentions. There was no point in refuting. And, looks like you are a very sensible child. But the school is saying that you are the little tyrant. What do you think about this title? Hearing the principal's question, Li Fan smiled. It's just a title. Students always like to give nicknames. Because I have practiced martial arts and like to fight for justice, I was called the little tyrant by everyone. It's just a joke. Principal, you don't have to take it seriously. The title is a small matter. But the first class will be held soon. How are your preparations? It's all right. My English and mathematics are pretty good. The only areas that pull me down are Chinese and liberal arts. Li Fan had been doing a lot of tutoring recently. With the help of the girls, his math and English had improved a lot. How many points did you get in the last exam? 510. It's all right, but it's still some distance away from the main point. The principal pondered for a moment. University is just about enough for me. Li Fan expressed that it was okay. I'll be satisfied as long as it's 30 or 40 points. University is the most important step in one's life. You must get the best results. The headmaster reminded Li Fan. I remember that the principal learned some advanced education methods overseas and then returned to the country to teach. Li Fan immediately asked, Shouldn't you be more open-minded? Why are you so fixated on the college entrance examination? I believe that Teacher Liao has also spoken to you about this matter. The principal wasn't angry. Instead, he pointed out, it's impossible for just one or two of us to change things. This is the education method in our country. Of course, it's fine if you don't take the college entrance examination. You still have the opportunity to be outstanding. But if you lose this opportunity, you'll have to put in a lot more effort than ordinary people. The principal's words made Li Fan unable to refute. Actually, I already have my own business. Li Fan told the truth. Even if I don't go to university, I still have a business to run. Business? Is it your family? The principal heard that Li Fan had some relationship with Director Murong. They seemed to be engaged in the past. But now that Director Murong rarely appeared, there was no way to confirm this matter. The principal vaguely felt that Li Fan might have a huge family behind him. He was probably the son of an aristocratic family? Ah no. It's a business that I built from scratch. Li Fan thought for a moment and changed his words. It's me and a few friends. But if your cultural studies are not good enough, it will be very difficult for you to have higher achievements in entrepreneurship in the future. What the principal said was also true. Li Fan nodded. What you said is very reasonable. So, I still have to go to university. But there's no need to go too well. I think it's good enough. Isn't it good to go to a better school for further study? Studently? Of course it's good. If I can go, naturally it's fine. Li Fan had an open attitude. Yeah, you also hope that everyone can get into the best school, right? Principal, I'm just a high school student. You don't have to beat around the bush with me. Really? Li Fan felt that the principal was beating around the bush with him. The principal paused for a moment before continuing. Li Fan, you're very smart. Your future will definitely be good. But dating at such an important time, are you sure it won't affect your studies? So, the principal called me here today to ask this kind of thing. Li Fan already had a rough idea in his mind. Otherwise, why would he be summoned by the principal for no reason? Yes, this kind of thing is very important. The principal emphasized, I'm indeed very open-minded. If you were dating in the past, I wouldn't say anything. But now is a critical time. One wrong step and it'll be a bottomless abyss. Principal, don't worry. My and Lin Yuhsian's grades won't be affected. Li Fan assured, Lin Yuhsian is a genius. She has even finished the university courses by herself. The key is the two of you. The principal was unrelenting. I was also young once. I understand the state of dating. Lin Yuhsian is a good seedling. It's definitely not a problem for her to enter Tsinghua University or Peking University. But if you let your guard down, your grades will definitely be hard to say. I don't object to the two of you dating. I just hope that you can let go of this relationship and focus on your studies. It won't be too late to consider dating after you've both entered university. The principal was giving him all sorts of advice. Li Fan felt wronged. He really wanted to tell the principal that the one who should be dating wasn't him, but Lin Yuhsian. Why don't you go and tell Lin Yuhsian instead? But he could only hide these words in his heart. If he said it out loud, it would seem like he was too petty. Principal, look at the results of the first mock. Li Fan was also a little angry. Although the principal was kind-hearted, she was too long-winded and endless. Since you like to use grades to speak, then we'll use our grades to show that our relationship won't have a bad impact. Alright, then the two of you will increase your grades by 50 points each. Li Fan was speechless. Principal, Lin Yuhsian already has 720 points. She won't be able to increase it by 50 points, right? Then she'll get 10 points and you'll get 50 points. Can you do it? Come on, I'm not afraid of you. Li Fan patted his chest, but the principal revealed a triumphant smile. Then it's a deal. Chapter 9:15. Until the end of school, Li Fan still felt that something was wrong, as if he had been tricked by the principal. But since he had said it, he must do it. Although Li Fan was thick-skinned, he was surprisingly proud in this aspect. 50 points? You're really crazy. During the self-study class, when Lin Yuhsian heard Li Fan say this, she immediately rolled her eyes. It's okay. It shouldn't be difficult for me to raise 50 points. The teacher was not in the class, so the students were whispering, and Li Fan was able to chat with Lin Yuexing. When he heard Lin Yuexing's accusation, he could not help but chuckle. The key is 720 points. It should be difficult to raise 10 points, right? What's so difficult about it? I will deliberately answer a few wrong questions during exams. Lin Yuexing shrugged. One should be low-key. You're a monster. Li Fan was a little speechless. This woman was too abnormal. How did her brain grow? It was too scary. My 10 points is too easy. It's mainly you. It's difficult to know your 50 points. Lin Yuexing looked at Li Fan angrily. Do you think 50 points is easy to come by? You've pulled too many basic courses. What? Our campus belle Lin also can't raise my 50 points. Who said I can't? Lin Yuexing was the most vulnerable to provocation. She and Murong AI were simply a pair, but in terms of IQ, Lin Yuexing was a little higher than Murong AI, so Murong AI always fell into Lin Yuexing's trap. If that's the case, you'd better listen to this lady's instructions. As long as you're obedient, I guarantee that your points will increase. Thank you, girlfriend. Li Fan cupped his hands, showing his respect. Young man, you're very sensible. When the time comes, massage my back and legs, understand? It's so boring to massage the back and legs. How about the chest and legs? Massage your ass. Lin Yuexing secretly hammered Li Fan. It did not hurt at all. Be serious, I'm doing questions. Li Fan took a piece of paper and pretended to do the questions carefully. I'm ignoring you. Lin Yuexing turned her head away angrily. She said that she would ignore Li Fan, but when Li Fan asked Lin Yuexing questions, she would answer them obediently. While Li Fan was busy reviewing his lessons on the other side, a group of highly trained warriors were quietly landing on Li Family Island. A submarine slowly rose from the sea. Li Fan and 10 frogmen jumped out of Li Family Island. These 10 people looked well-trained. They secretly swam to the shore under the cover of the night. The 10 people changed out of their frogman clothes, revealing the black special combat suit inside. They all have Asian faces, but before they moved, they smeared black camouflage on their faces. But one of them looked a bit different. He wore a black and white robe. His expression was a bit gloomy. The 9 special combat team members seemed to be protecting this robed man. After he went ashore, he threw out a paper man. This paper man floated in the air a few times and finally fell forward. In the east, the robed man said, "It's only 3 kilometers away from us." The captain of the special combat team nodded, waved his hand, and led the special combat team members to the east. This group of people is Japan's secret force. The robed man is a young expert of the Onmyoji family. In order to seize X's body, the 3 major families of Japan each sacrificed a family member's flesh and blood, completed an evil ritual, and tracked the location of X's body. After painstakingly locating X, Japan immediately sent out a team of elites, preparing to seize X's body. As long as they can obtain X's body for research, they will definitely be able to have a breakthrough in energy technology. Right now in Japan, there is a right-wing force. They are extremely ambitious. These people control the government. Not only do they want to regain the glory of the empire, they are also preparing to break away from the control of the US, invade Asia's territory, and dominate the world. But the most important thing is still X's body. Under such a strict mission, the Onmyoji Abe Kawazu was sent to this island. In the plan to seize X, the ninja family of the 3 major families of Japan have already lost. Now, the only ones that have high hopes are the samurai family and the Onmyoji family. Abe Kawazu is one of the outstanding ones. He is unwilling to wear the special combat suit that has a strong concealment effect, insisting on wearing his Onmyoji robe. And the other 9 special combat team members' mission is to guarantee that they will escort Abe Kawazu to the location where X's body is hidden. The rest is for Abe Kawazu to display his skills. To Abe Kawazu, this is just a small mission. He is the elite of the Onmyoji family. He has powerful spiritual energy. On this small island, how can there be anyone who is his match? A small base appeared in front. Seeing this, Abe Kawazu can't help but laugh. This is really a poor and rundown island. The base is so small, won't it be easily breached? Kill those guards, Abe Kawazu ordered. Although he is not a member of the Special Combat Team, he is now the highest-ranking officer here. He pointed to the 2 guards standing in front of the base and gave the order. The sniper immediately got into position, holding a sniper rifle and aimed at the guards. The captain has already given the order. The 2 guards are immediately shot, their heads exploding, and they fall to the ground. Over. The Special Combat Team continued forward, protecting Abe Kawazu as they walked to the entrance of the base. But the entrance of the base is made of steel plates that are 5 centimeters thick. It is still a little difficult to break in. The captain used a fixed-point explosion, preparing to attack. But this way, the people on the island will definitely discover them. Prepare for battle. After C4 blasted the entrance, the captain ordered his team members to force their way in, but after they rushed in, they realized that there is no one guarding the inside of the base. But the entire base is flashing with dark red lights. Obviously the other party already knows of their intrusion. There is no one guarding this place? The captain felt that something is wrong. And at this moment, the door in front suddenly opened. A fully armed robot is standing there. Fire. The captain has a premonition of the town. He immediately ordered to start attacking, his team members all firing at the robot. But the robot's body is indestructible. The bullets landing on it can only create sparks. It is holding a machine gun, killing a few team members who did not have time to hide behind cover. Just a mere robot, it is not worth mentioning. Abe Kawazu sneered, then he conjured a spell. The reason why onmyoges are called the strongest in Japan is because they have a powerful shikigami. A ghost samurai covered in black armor walked out of the smoke, silently appearing behind the robot. It waved the black katana in its hand, cutting the robot in half. Continue. Abe Kawazu calmly walked towards the depths of the base. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.